Huh? When we get back. First to fill this breaks out. Snap his ass. After you play a card here, double its power. Ooh, okay. Your power here is granted to other locations as well. Oh shit, okay. I think we're gonna keep filling this shit. Onslaught. Double your other ongoing effects at this location. Oh shit, okay. All right, here we go. Drop that baby. See what it does. I don't know if I have enough. Fuck. Collect rewards, dude. Fuck me. I thought I had that one. After each turn here, cards here fight, destroy the weakest one. After each turn, cards here fight. Ooh, that's cool. Okay. This. Snap his ass. Probably shouldn't snap so often, but I like it. So because they pushed, they're okay. All right, all right. Shit. They beat me? Yeah, this fucking he kicked some dick in, dude. All right. 5 and 1. Take a shower, huh? Sounds good. Never seen before. White Queen, copy the highest card in your opponent's hand. Shit, so he has my Iron Man now. Victory. I love how quick you're in and out of these freaking games. On turn 6, you can move cards to this location. Oh, interesting. Okay. After you play a card here, add a copy of copy to the opponent's hand. Okay, good to know. this. Snap him. Westview turns into a new location on turn 4. Okay. Good to know. Lantern. At Maze, the first card you play here gets 3+3 power and moves. Damn, that's really good. We're doing that. Four. Ongoing power has if there is only one card here. Okay. What the fuck just happened? So if you want to have especially if the other guys are all right. 14 we push there. I win this, he wins that. Well, there we go. Fuck. I lost. God damn it, man. Interesting stuff, this game, man. I'm trying to find the battle pass. I think I want to get it. I guess I don't know where the battle pass is. So I wonder why I won that. So I thought, I guess you don't push if you have more. Each player. You have 3 other cards here. You have +3 power. Okay. And a ninja to each side with -2 power. Yeah. Yeah. You guys gotta watch this shit. This is outrageous. This is outrageous.
So this
Oh
is
shit.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just genuinely trying to understand.
Oh shit.
Right? Because I know it sounds kind of weird, but like I know your generation really well.
Why
Oh, you do my generation?
100%.
It's bad. So you can.
Yo, what's up? It's Bullet. It's iBuck1. What's going on, man?
My generation is full.
Good to see you back in the chat.
Low attention span, brain children, and like literally I said children, but obviously like the 20s, like 18, 19-year-olds. That's what I meant by that. Like it's very bad. I'm a TikTok brain myself, doctor.
So, Aiden, this may sound weird, like, and I'm not right here, okay?
Yeah.
Your generation is full of human beings trying to make it in this world, just like every generation before. The world has
100%,
changed.
I agree. Yes.
Right? I'm with you. But like, I still think it's like, you know, this is the kind of thing where I wonder a little bit about like when you engage in a transactional relationship with someone from the get-go.
This being better than Hearthstone is such a hot take, LMFAO.
Thanks, dude.
It's
I thought people would enjoy that.
Get that in return.
Right.
Right?
It's fun.
So, like,
I'm enjoying
when you
this.
say like these people are going to behave like this, like I know it sounds kind of silly, but
I don't necessarily
I'm really not trying to
disagree,
be a dick
though.
here. You understand that?
Yeah, dude. I feel like I'm in and out of the games a lot quicker. But if you know, if I know if I'm losing a little quicker, I know if I'm winning a little quicker.
So
It's good.
Acting and behaving like a hoe is influenced by me.
100%. Right? So like, I'm a human being and you're a human being.
Right.
If I came to you and I said, Aiden, you fucknut, you don't know what you're talking about, you're all fucked up in the head. I've been to Harvard Medical School, I am doctor, I am psychiatrist. Aiden, you don't know what you are doing, you need to get married, I will find you wife, we'll go find you nice girl. She will be good. She'll be good girl, not these people you are dating on the Tinder and the Bumble and the Hinge and all of this.
It doesn't seem like you have a large card pool
Settle down
yet.
now, beta.
Oh, this is not fair.
No, I
Oh,
don't.
no, this is great. This is great.
I definitely don't.
So like,
great.
if I approached you like that, how would you respond?
Laugh.
Actually, this is the first Spider-Man I've ever seen in my card deck.
Interact with you
Holla.
is gonna
After turn 4, destroy all cards controlled by the player.
That's
Losing
correct. I
here.
actually get what you're saying. Thank you for that, putting it like that.
Right. So like my point here is that
Okay.
I don't know what I mean talking about here or where this is going, but like I don't doubt that your experience is the way that it is, but my point is that like, you know, so I work with patients who are narcissists.
People keep playing this card and not like using it correctly.
Speak with me or no?
I don't know.
It's too early to tell yet.
What the fuck?
I
Unreveal
think
move.
my hottest take is Mario
from
is
a
canonically
diagnostic
stronger
perspective,
than all of
the
Marvel.
diagnosis of
Oh,
narcissistic
but definitely.
personality disorder
I agree.
requires, like a very long history of like understanding a lot more.
I know what they're
stuff.
doing over there.
I think the other thing that's complicated is that content
That was an interesting
creators, by
card.
definition, become more narcissistic because that's the only way you can survive content creation.
Thank you for actually saying that. You're not wrong. I've changed. I think I am.
Where do I want to
You're actually
go?
100% correct what you just said. When you're a content creator, you've been in it for a long time. Like it's like you look at view count,
OMG,
you
no
look at
way.
all these things, so many, views and.
So I'm not going to label you a narcissist or not, and if there's narcissistic behavior here,
No way, what?
Like defensive in nature, my gut
Oh,
check for
Jesus.
most content creators, okay?
So what do you diagnose me as? Is there anything you could
I
diagnose me
would
as?
not diagnose you with shit, bro.
Really?
Just snapped
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
A little
Like,
bitch.
literally, I wouldn't diagnose you with anything because this is not medical care. And if you want to understand the process of diagnosis, sorry to disappoint. No, don't worry, you're fucked up in some way. I just won't say it for you. No, I'm kidding. no.
What the fuck?
No, Aiden.
You
so
agree with
seriously,
that,
what it
Ray?
is that the questions
Take.
that determine a diagnosis are very different.
Oh,
from
well, you know what? Maybe I missed the take because here, let me go back.
interact with me.
That's correct. I actually get what you're saying. Thank you for that, putting it like that.
Right. So like my point here is that I mean I don't know what I'm even talking about here or where this is going, but like I don't doubt that your experience is the way that it is, but my point is that like, you know, so I work with patients who are narcissists.
Hang on, am I narcissist by the way you speak with me or no?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah?
Tell me his take if I don't
Definitely too early to tell. So,
hear
so
what
like,
he's saying.
From a diagnostic perspective, the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder requires like a very long history of like understanding a lot more stuff. I think the other thing that's complicated is that content creators by definition become more narcissistic because that's the only way you can survive content creation.
Thank you for actually saying that. You're not wrong. I've changed. I think I am. I definitely give up narcissistic tendencies. You're actually 100% correct what you just said. When you're a content creator, you've been in it for a long time. Like it's like you look at view count.
Fuck, I don't know what to do here.
So many, views and.
I think I just secure the win,
I'm not
right?
gonna label you a narcissist or not.
I just
If
secure the
there's
win.
Narcissistic behavior here. I think it's like defensive in nature. Is my gut check for most content creators. Okay?
So what do you diagnose me as? Is there anything you could
I
diagnose me
would
as?
not diagnose you with shit, bro.
Fuck yes.
Really?
GG,
Yeah,
bitch.
yeah. Well, like literally, I wouldn't diagnose you with anything because this is
My
not
wife
medical
just, like,
care.
gave me
If
that-
you want to understand the process of
Wow.
diagnosis, sorry to disappoint.
All right.
No, don't worry, you're fucked up in some way. I just won't say it for you. No.
W.
No.
What the fuck?
No, Aiden, so seriously what it
He's
is
definitely
that
fucked
the
up,
questions
if that was the
determine
take.
Diagnosis are very different from what we're doing.
Wait, doctor, can you prescribe me range?
What does it mean?
A 4?
What?
A 4.
What? I don't understand the question.
Cough syrup, promethazine codeine. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. But can I go back to this thing about the way we
Yeah, my
relate
bad.
to so like your behavior influences someone else's behavior, right? And
agree
their
with that, yeah.
behavior
My take
influences
was
your
Mario
behavior.
is stronger than all of Marvel.
And
Oh,
so
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
definitely,
what
I
I'm
believe that.
worried about
Mario's fucking.
is
I
that-
love Mario,
So you
dude.
don't want to end up alone. So like
I love Marvel too, though. Don't get me
want you
wrong.
to end up
I
alone.
like them for
I
different
want you to be
reasons, I think.
happy. You seem like a good dude. You
Can't
seem
play
like
at a
you're
random-
doing your fucking best. And you do some things really
He
well.
is a real shithead, isn't
And
he?
somewhere along the way, you've conceived of a world.
I don't know, man.
which
Being in
don't think
his
is
position would be an interesting spot in life
the
too.
best.
So
What do you mean?
I don't know.
I'll get to that in a second.
He reminds me of Bieber.
So I'm challenging your beliefs, right?
Cost card to each
Yeah.
player's
I-
hand.
I
Adam
just-
3.
I
Okay.
agree with the part where you're doing the best. I didn't know what you meant by the other part.
Yeah, I'm getting that.
Okay.
So like first thing
Mm-hmm.
to understand is that your relationships with women are not like it's not like there's two camps of
We're
women.
gonna go there.
And
There is the doctor. Like, okay, I get it. It's my
split.
influence.
You can choose to judge people that way.
Yes.
But, like-
that's me being ignorant then, if you want to say that. But yes, I will.
Yeah, you
I'll-
can choose
Cards
to judge
cost
people.
one
I'm
each.
telling
Nice.
you, like scientifically, it's just not. It's not like there's two.
This is the first
kinds
time
of
I've ever
people.
seen this
Human
card,
beings
too.
are complex creatures. So like you're not a dick or a hoe or anything like that. You're just a human being who's gone through life, and your brain has wired, your psychology has wired, so that you have a constellation of stuff. Like you're a complex guy, right? There are
Yes.
times where you feel like a hoe because you had a lot of meaningless sex, and there are times where you feel in love, and there are times where the scariest thing of all, you
Sabretooth.
fall in love with someone
When
who
this
enjoys being
when
not
this is destroyed, return it to the
And
your
then
hand at
you're-
0 cost.
And
That's
then
cool.
what happens is your mind does the same shit it does with all these other emotions, where it's like, would you let yourself fall in love with someone who's not a queen?
Fuck no.
Absolutely, right? So in comes the humor, in comes the suppression, in comes the I never feel anything, in comes the like all that other shit, because somewhere along the way, so then you won't let yourself love. And then from the outside,
that's not true though, doctor. Listen, because it's not because doctor, nobody wants to marry a hoe. Well, not nobody. I'm speaking. You're right. I'm ignorantly speaking from based on my perspective. I don't want to marry.
Let me finish. I'm just talking hypothetically here. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So my point is, like, if we put ourselves in the shoes of the women that you interact with, they can label you as one of two things. Right? I don't even know what the fuck they are, but forget about it. They can judge you, oh, this guy's an asshole, or this guy's a prince, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And there are certainly people that are going to do that. My point is that you are a complex human being that has a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
And that your interactions with women may be easily judged as this guy texted me and now he's whatever, he's a player, like whatever, he's an asshole, whatever, he's toxic, whatever. They can label you with that shit, but my point is that there's a whole complicated, like, internal, like, stuff going on. You're like a whole universe, man.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I'll give you an example, right? Doctor, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
And you be honest, and everyone can answer this the honest way possible. Would you rather? You're already pretend you're not.
I forget what Star-Lord does.
Doctor, okay. Well, what were you doing when you were 18?
Mostly playing video games. And
What game?
Maybe Diablo, StarCraft.
Okay. You're 18 years old playing StarCraft.
Fuck, I don't know.
There's a girl on Instagram at the time. Let's just say there's Instagram. There's a girl on Instagram who's got hella followers, shows her ass off all over Instagram, all this stuff, her pics, everything, right? You invite her over. She comes over, doc. Right away. You text her, hey, what are you doing tonight? Want to pull up? She's like, sure. Let's watch a movie tonight. The new
Okay, he played all his cards there, thank God.
Let's watch it. She pulls up, put on 5 minutes. She starts
GG.
start kissing, you fuck her. Okay? You want her to leave her right away. Because come on, look how easy that was. You want a challenge. You don't want that. Listen to this. You go to Europe for vacation. You meet a girl. Over in Europe. She's maybe had 1 or 2 guys. She's fully clothed. It doesn't really matter the clothing part, but she has an intellectual conversation with you about stuff. You guys go on a couple dates. You really are starting to like this girl. She's starting to like you as well. Does it matter? I'm sorry. Which one would you rather go with?
I don't know.
Go with for what?
Like, which one would you rather marry? I'm sorry.
I don't think that the variables that you described would be very important for...
I completely said that wrong. I'm sorry. Like, I should have explained it and got it better. But you got to get what I'm saying. You get what I'm trying to say?
So yeah, I here's what I hear you say. You're trying to put me in a hypothetical example in which you paint someone who's like got this extreme, and then you paint someone who's got this extreme, and you're kind of pointing out to me, hey, fuck nuts, it's not that complicated. There's 2 types of women in this world. Which one would you rather marry, bro? And then if I say I would rather marry this one, right? Let's say I'd rather marry the European. Then how would you feel?
Like, good shit, doctor, you're smart.
And if I said the other one?
Doctor, no, brother. That's the one you don't want to marry. Go marry the other girl. She's better for you, bro. All right, doctor. Oh, I got you. Let me break it down a little more. This Instagram girl, she has 2 baby daddies, 2 different guys. She has 500 bodies, and I told you she's like half naked on Instagram. Okay. This other girl, the European girl, no social media. You know what I'm saying? She has 2 bodies, and you guys hit it off intellectually. Like, you guys are like, it just feels so good. It feels like you guys are connected.
Okay.
Who would you rather marry?
So, let's assume, let's say that I marry the European. I'd rather marry. Right? But I think there's a big difference because you're presupposing that one of them has an emotional connection. The real
Yes.
question is if you so like because you're saying that the emotional connection. So what are you hearing me say?
I know what you're-
I'm
I know-
happy. I'm happy to say whatever. Like you can construct the scenario in whatever way. Like you get that you can construct the scenario in whatever way. If one of them has a year to live, has cancer, has HIV, has all this shit, and this is the other thing is what you. It's subtle, right?
All right, we need to
Something
figure this
really
out
interesting.
here.
You're adding promiscuity to a set of other negative traits.
Sorry, what's promiscuity? I'm sorry. I'm just
Having
not-
sex with a lot of people. Right? You're not saying the scenario you're giving me is rigged, right? Because it's not like you meet this person, she's only been she's intellectual, she's beautiful, she's amazing, she's a saint, she's awesome, she's European, because apparently there's some extra appeal, and she slept with 500 dudes. Right? Like so like you're sort of creating this scenario where
American
like there's
job.
promiscuity on one side or like having sex with a lot of dudes, but there's
Start
also
on the
a
bottom of
shitload
your
other
deck.
things. And then if I keep on saying no, what are you
Bronze
gonna keep
target.
doing? You're gonna keep on adding other shit
If I
until
was
you
your
get a
boy-
yes.
If I was your boy, okay.
I'm
You
talking
just
about
gotta-
the
you just
scenario.
gotta-
I'm
I
talking
know,
about
but
the
you just gotta-
scenarios.
You just gotta get it. You're actually politically correct the way you're wording things. You're right. Technically, there's so many different breakdowns you give me and stuff. You're not wrong. What I'm trying to say is, bro, if I have a boy who is dating a hoe, if everyone, you guys know, if you have a boy who is with a hoe, with a girl who is just wrong to him, to all these things.
Kaylee.
Like,
What do you
is
mean by
just-
wrong?
Did you have a shirt on?
Just sorry, not wrong to him specifically, just wrong, like a girl that has her morals all fucked up, right? And nobody's perfect, by the way. I'm just saying, like, it's as my boy. If my boy was in that situation, I'd be like, yo, bro, no, get another one. That you didn't.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Do you think
Yeah.
people who are very sexually active can end up in happy, fulfilled marriages?
Yes, there's these things called hoe phases in my generation. Everyone goes through a hoe phase, dog.
Okay.
I go through a hoe phase. I don't want to go through a hoe phase anymore. Now, I'm allowed to go through a hoe phase, but if a bitch goes through a hoe phase, fuck no. Send her ass to the curb.
Is
That was
that
a
a
joke.
joke? Okay.
Yes, yes,
That's a
yes,
joke. Okay.
yes, yes.
So
it's a
so
joke. I mean,
so women, everyone's allowed to go through a hoe phase.
okay, can I be honest with you? A girl's allowed to go through a hoe phase if she's upfront honest about it. I think, not a girl in general, I think everyone is. If you're upfront honest about your whole past, you tell them like everything what you've done, and you're very direct, and you don't find anything out like that's hidden and stuff, I'm okay with that. I think when you're older, people realize that. Like
First
it's
card
cool,
you
like,
play here
I mean,
gets
I think
plus
honesty
3 in
and
power,
transparency and authenticity are important parts of the
plus 3 in
relationship,
power and move.
I think so too.
right? So
But a
the-
lot of girls lie about their body counts. A lot of girls lie about their past and stuff. In my generation,
well,
all
why
my
do you
years.
think that is?
Insecurity?
What does that mean? What are they
Women,
insecure?
if a woman has a lot of bodies, she's known as oh my generation.
Oh,
who's
and
known for that?
moves. Okay.
The girl.
I don't think so. Right? Because what the girl is trying to do is avoid your judgment.
Yeah, but you should be honest. You know,
I
my
agree.
mom said you shouldn't lie. You lie, you're
I don't know
gonna.
what we're talking. Okay, Andrew, let me take a step back. Is this useful? Do you think this is a good conversation?
No, why don't we go to something that makes more sense? This is like a stupid topic.
What makes this stupid?
It just doesn't really. It's just like dumb. It's like you and I see different. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's no point to really talk about it.
I
it's just
agree.
like-
I agree with you that there is less point to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit curious. What did you hear me say about like this whole like what determines whether someone is a hoe or a queen?
Not gonna lie, doctor, I'm not trying to be ignorant, but I think like my perspective and experience on life makes me like I already have this shit like in my head. Like it is like super like judgmental and stuff. Like, and I'm admitting that, but like it's like I already have like I already kind of like know like what I want in a woman, and I already kind of know what I. Well, I told you, doc. I mean, I might not even fucking get what I want. Who knows?
Yeah,
He is a
I'm
really-
hearing
he is
that
kind of a
you're
fuckwit, isn't he?
Open-minded on this topic.
Yeah. I just think we should move on.
Okay.
It's just like it's pointless. It's like it doesn't seem like it's not that it's pointless. It's just like there's a lot more topics we could have that are way more interesting.
Okay. What's pointless about this?
Because you and I see different. Like
We see different.
yeah, I think we see different, and I think you're correct with a lot you're saying and in the way you're speaking, but like I have a different perspective, I think, than you do. Like I think like my perspective, like I've already like experienced what I've experienced, so like I'm automatically gonna think the way I think. Does that make sense? Like I already have like
we don't have to talk about it more, but I just want to share one last thing with you. Is like, so I think that's what makes it worth talking about, is that you have an automatic perspective.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
And so I think one of the really interesting things is if, like, as we go through life, it is very normal for us to form conclusions about how life works, how people work, right? And then the interesting thing is that if we stop and re-examine our life, we can come to different conclusions.
I am Iron Man.
I agree.
GG.
We don't have to continue.
Okay.
The reason I brought some of this stuff up in the first place, I don't even know where this came from, but
I know.
I think the one thing that I'm trying to signal to you is a couple of things. One is that it's like having sex and making love has more to do with what's in the inside of you than it does.
I agree.
Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that, and I'll tell you why I'm even talking about this now, because I have a reason why I think this is important, is that I'm concerned, Aiden, that, so I want to help you not be alone at the age of 30, let alone 41, okay? And the thing is, just based on, once again, my experience, and the whole point of having conversations is that we're going to have different experiences of life, we're going to come to different conclusions, right? Totally cool.
Right.
And then the neat thing is that, maybe I'm trying to tell you to get on a chair and you're just saying, fuck you. Sorry, what you were saying, like, don't climb on the table, and you're like, no, when someone tells me to climb on the table, I got to climb on the table. So I'm wondering if that's going on here. But my point is that I think, first of all, the way that you relate to women has more to do with, I feel like I'm getting a disconnection. So sometimes when you talk about it, it seems like your interactions with women are determined by them. Like, this person is this way because of their behavior. This person is this way because of their behavior.
I don't judge anybody based on their past. I come from a fucked up past. I had a whole face myself. I'm just saying, like, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that you. My point is that it's determined out there. Like, women there are two types of women, right?
There's hoes and queens, 100%. Yes, in my generation, Doc.
Whatever. I'm not.
No, there's not what I promise.
And
Doc,
my
there
point is that, like, something within you determines whether you're fucking or making love. It's not just them, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that's important to me is because you want to end up with someone that you want to make love with.
That's correct.
Right? And so then the question becomes, if you want to end up with someone that you want to make love with, and you can have feelings for... I'm trying to think of a word that's not hoe, but I just can't think of anything. Right? So and my point is that there could be a group of people like there could be someone out there that you fall in love with that could be a successful relationship. And I say this as someone who's worked with, just to give you an example, we don't have to get more into this. I just want you to understand one thing, and you don't have to understand if you disagree, is that you have a contribution. There's something in here that determines the way that you relate to people, women. That's all I want you to take away from this. And if we can agree on that, we can move on.
Wait, so say that last part again?
I think if I can play my whole in mid.
Determines your relationship with a woman. That's it. That's all I'm asking.
It's actually right here in my brain. Yes, not my heart, my brain.
Nothing in here changes your relationship to women?
Oh, my penis!
No, your heart. I mean, sure, your penis, your brain, your... I can't tell if you're joking or you really don't think that...
No, like, bro, doctor, I get what you're saying. You're correct. Everything you're saying, I get it. I told you, I'm ignorant based off perspectives in my life. I'm ignorant. You're probably right. There's probably girls out there that have had a whole past that are queens now. Great. But my perspective, my generation, there's some fucked up girls who do fucked up things, and I try to not put myself in that position. So
Sure. So I think that like, my point is that the way you, what are you hearing me conclude? That
it's my heart that basically is the reason why I differentiate women.
That you what?
divide women up to queens and O's.
No. Actually, not exactly. So here's what I'm saying. All I want you to just really think about is that in a relationship with another human being, that relationship is not determined by who they are. It is determined
what I feel.
They bring a piece of it to the table, and you bring a piece of it.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. And now we're gonna get to like the stuff that we were talking about earlier, which is like the lack of sensitivity that you have. So you feel numb in some way.
Right.
Okay. So it feels weird to go back here. So
no, I'm cool with this, bro. We can go back to the other topic. Go ahead.
But so I'm just so derailed. Give me a second.
Why you derailed?
There's a whole different energy and dynamic to this the conversation we just had about relationships to the conversation we were having before.
I
Must
agree.
be
The energy
played
definitely
here.
shifted, Doc.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it just takes me a second to like move away from that. I was also the language that you used changed the way that I felt in the conversation.
Well, yeah, I used O and I used queen. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just that affects me.
Yeah. I mean, why does it affect you?
Why does it affect me, or how does it affect me?
Both. Why and how does it affect you? Why does that
First
trigger?
thing is that I feel uncomfortable and defensive being in a conversation where that language is being used.
That's just our generation, how we speak. Like, it's like you said it when you first joined. I'm a boomer. Right?
I don't need a reason. I'm just sharing with you why it's hard for me to make the shift.
Okay, but I'm just trying to put that out there. That's all.
That's like, you know, you use that language and whatever. You can call it generational if you want to.
I think it is.
Huh?
I said I believe it's generational. Most people that,
you know, and so that's just why it's hard for me to shift back into like where we were before.
Yeah.
It takes me a second.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So, you know, because like you're schooling me about dating in your generation, and that's a different feel from like, let's talk about sadness, loneliness. I think that they're both actually really productive conversations. I really appreciate you for having both of them with me. Like, I feel honored to be a part of both of those conversations. Also scared to be a part of the last one, but like I can hold two feelings at the same time, right?
Nah, don't be scared, man. It's just like people gotta realize like there's really modern day pimping going on in the world. Like, for example, these guys are now signing OnlyFans girls. You know what I'm saying? And it's like modern day pimping in a way. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
what's wrong with you being scared?
I guess you're right. Scared is good. It's a feeling.
Yeah, right. I can be scared.
Yeah, I'm just saying my generation.
I appreciate you looking out for me. So what I heard when you said that was that you're looking out for me. I felt the love there. That was nice.
I got you. Doctor.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna ask. I actually want to hear your ask.
I was gonna ask you to remind me of what we were talking about and what feels relevant to you.
I forgot what we were talking about before. I think the desensitized thing.
So when we were talking about relationships, how did you feel?
It was honestly just interesting.
So interesting is, I know it sounds kind of weird, is not really a very good word for a feeling. I'm not trying to be judgmental there, right?
Your ongoing powers plus 2.
Right,
Oh, that's it.
Right? So like, what do you think you were feeling in that conversation?
I liked having that conversation because I enjoyed it because it felt good. Well, not good, but it's just like I knew. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like I know the difference between my perspective on life, how I feel about certain women. Now that might change when I'm older, Doctor. That might change when I'm 25 or 30. You know what I'm saying? As of right now, I just know the difference between what you know what I'm saying?
So can I share with you? Go ahead, sorry.
No, I just know the difference in my generation between a hoe and a queen.
So here's what I felt from you emotionally. I felt confidence. I felt certainty. I felt you being on sure footing.
Okay.
What do you think about
What's the last word you used?
it? Sure footing, like you're on solid ground.
Yeah, I'm standing on it for sure.
Is that how you felt?
Yeah.
Right. So like I think that there's something very attractive about all of that because it makes you feel good.
Oh, thank you. Call me attractive.
I mean, I meant attractive for you.
Okay.
Right. So like do you see how like emotionally there's no numbness when you're talking about that?
I do. The numbness isn't in really conversation. I like having conversations. I feel from conversations. Like, the numbness comes from, I guess, daily life.
After you play a
outside of
3 or
conversation.
4 cost card, you
Okay.
move it.
So I've detected
card,
numbness in you
move
in
it here.
our conversations, but when we're talking about other things. So for example,
Okay.
when you say it is what it is, I think that's you actually like numbing yourself out a little bit, right? Because like what are you
Yeah,
gonna
it
do
is.
about it? Right?
What am I
It's
gonna
kinda
do exactly?
like there's no point in having the feeling.
Correct.
And then the feeling goes away.
That's right.
Right? So I think there's numbness, and like what I'm kind of noticing is that conversation about relationships was like really lively, right? It's like super energetic. I'm feeling uncomfortable. You're feeling on solid footing. And so there was like a little bit of reverse Uno here, where here I am talking about sadness and loneliness, and I'm like, fucking, I can swim in that shit all day. And it was kind of like a reverse of our positions. Suddenly you're schooling me.
I'm not trying to school you. I'm just want to inform you. I'm going to say this, and I mean this in like the kindest. Don't take it the wrong way, please. And I'm going to say it. Like, just listen to what I say it. And I got to say it in all right. When I was 20, or not even me, I might be using an example. I don't know who's 20 years old in here. I don't want to sound ignorant. A 20-year-old in my generation is smarter than a 20-year-old in your guys' generation.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. They're more, how do I say it? Enhanced, in a way. Like, we got this. My uncle doesn't know how to use a fucking phone. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't want to say this the wrong way. It's gonna sound so dumb. I really don't want to, like, you gotta really understand. I'm sometimes really bad at explaining things, but like,
Assemble.
a 20-year-old in my generation, I feel like, in a way, is more experienced than a 20-year-old in your generation. So I think that, like, dude, does that make sense?
So here's what I'm hearing. So this conversation has the same energy to me as the last conversation that we had, which is sure footing, confidence. You really have a clear view of the world and everything makes sense.
Yes.
So I see a lot of excitement from you, but I don't think that this is having this conversation. Like, you can school me all. I don't mind being schooled by you, by the way.
I'm not trying to school you. I'm not trying to school you at all. I'm not trying to do that at all.
I'm going to stop using that word because that's whatever. My point is that this conversation is going to be the same as before, where I can ask you about your opinion.
I don't know if I can win.
So the other thing, it's not about not agreeing. Whatever, sure. But I think the other thing is that in these conversations, we're not talking about you anymore. You're talking about society. You're talking about generations. There's no room
GG
in
King.
here for your experiences and your personal feelings, or mine. Does that make sense? Because we're commenting about that shit over there.
I get what you're saying. It doesn't make sense, but at the same time,
Do it.
it's like that's why I kept saying it's my perspective on the other topic. I kept saying it might sound ignorant. It might be ignorant. I'm just saying how I feel based on my experiences. You know what I mean?
Sure. So, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I was doing great this year, lifting weights, and losing weight and stuff. And then I went through something traumatic, and then I started sipping lean.
You started what?
Sipping lean, sipping codeine in promethazine, codeine in yeah.
And what makes that? What feels?
Jesus Christ, this guy, dude.
was a fix that I did when I was going through so much traumatic and I was doing super good in the gym, and it kind of like ruined a lot of things around me, and it's just like a super, super bad reliant fix. You know what I mean? It's just drugs. It's like liquid heroin. That's what we call it. So bad.
Have you considered seeing a professional about something like that?
I don't need to. I haven't done it in a couple months. I stopped. I wasn't highly addicted, but I was on it for a while.
Is it okay if I ask you a little bit about seeing professionals, like professional mental health?
Yeah, that's whatever you want.
So I'm hearing that it's not a problem anymore, so you don't need to see a professional.
Yeah. I don't think about it. I don't crave it at all. I don't.
Then why talk about it?
I'm just giving you an update what I did this year.
Okay.
I wasn't. Yeah.
So just kind of like this is what you went through.
Yeah. And then I was on this path of kind of like this, I guess people call it the controversial era, where people that really don't know me, that aren't a part of my community, that just don't know me, they would see these articles and things and just assume I was an asshole. I would say things like there are two genders in this world. I made a tweet saying there are two genders.
Okay.
Like I went through like this controversial era, and that was labeled controversial. So when I made a tweet saying there was two genders, my talent agency dropped me from it and said, look what he tweeted this morning. He said something super controversial.
And what do you understand? Tell me about that. What's going on with that?
So, I mean, I slowed down. I stepped out from making like tweets like that and stuff. But when I tweeted that out, it hurt a lot of people. And I didn't do it to hurt people. I did it because a week before that, Twitter was on my ass about something old. My motive was like, cool, you guys want to target me for this? I'm gonna make a tweet, Twitter, and show you guys that, because they were trying to cancel me for something, cancel on Twitter. So I was like, okay, Watts, I'm about to make a controversial tweet, try to cancel me now. And it was my craziest tweet. I think it was like 600,000 likes and like millions and millions of views.
And what were you kind of? Is that kind of the same sort of like thing where it's like if someone tells you don't do something, you're like, fuck you, I'm gonna do it?
Not really. I did it because I did a tweet because I knew it would stir. I knew people would like talk about it. I knew it would be controversial in my generation, even though it's not.
This generation talk's gotta fucking stop.
Because I wanted to show cancel culture. Fuck you, cancel culture. Watch.
Dr. K isn't that much fucking older than Aiden Ross.
I think it's like, yeah. It's like people like it didn't matter. Like I didn't get canceled.
What makes you want to do that?
I wanted to show people fuck cancel culture. It doesn't matter.
Guy sounds like a fucking young old man. Well, my generation. Shut the fuck up.
What was driving you to prove your point?
The tweet when I tweeted.
Fucking humans are fucking human.
So like cancel culture is trying to be on
These
my ass.
idiots that think people like don't like dynamically change from generation to generation is so fucking crazy to me.
Fucking cancel culture. I'm not gonna go for that. So I'm gonna tweet out there's two genders, and they're even more mad.
Okay, so this is great. Maybe we've hit our limit for the day, but maybe not. So let me point something out. So I'm asking you, you engage in behavior, right? You tweeted. And I'm asking you, why did you do that? And then the answer that you give me is something else outside of you, right? They were trying to cancel you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm curious about is stuff in the outside world happens. And then stuff in the outside world enters you. And then something else happens. And then you feel like doing something else.
Correct.
Right? Like there's a stimulus from the outside world, and then there's a response from you to the outside world. With me?
Yes, I'm with you.
What goes on in the middle? Like what happens within you when they try to cancel you? Like that's what I'm asking. I'm curious about how does one action that is done to you result in a response from you? Why did you do that instead of apologizing or any other of the 1,000 things that you could have done? Like not tweet anything.
I think maybe just the table thing you talked about. Like I like doing the opposite. I like most people would fold and apologize. I didn't care. I got banned from Twitch. That soft, one-sided platform. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, fuck Twitch, fuck this, and that led to more shit, more stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, in my opinion, I just think why would I apologize for saying there's two genders? There are two genders. So it's like, I did it. Yeah. Like, I did it
so like when you say why would you do that? Do I feel emotional energy when you make that statement?
But why though? I'm saying like, you said
Forget
like, why
about the
did
logic.
No, I'm just trying to ask you like, why though? When you ask like, why didn't you just apologize or do another route? It's because there, like, what would I be apologizing for?
Sure, I'm not suggesting that you should apologize. What I'm kind of pointing out is that, so this is where I think the emotional numbness comes in. So generally speaking, when someone says something to me, it affects me in some way. And then my drive to act and the way in which I act is shaped by my internal environment. Right? So if someone says, fuck you, Alok, you're an asshole. And then I can feel one of two different things. I can feel ashamed, and if I feel ashamed, I will apologize. Or I can feel angry. I can feel affronted. I can feel territorial. And then if I feel angry, affronted, and territorial, I will turn around and I will say, screw you. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So the behavior, and the weird thing is that the mind actually, the logic follows the emotion, not the other way around.
I just think, yeah. I actually agree with that.
Right? So if we're talking about emotional numbness, I mean, I'm just picking this as a random. I don't care what happened on Twitter. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah.
But I think that like what I'm kind of pointing out to you is that earlier you talked about being addicted to the high of grinding. And we're talking a little bit about how you have some of these feelings and you're not quite sure what to do with them. And you sort of like, you do a good job actually, right? So you learn how to crack jokes. You learn how to like accept it is what it is. You can't necessarily change it. There's no point in worrying, but the worry is still there at the back of your head. And what I'm pointing out to you is that a lot of your behaviors, even jumping up on the table, I'm not sure how much in control of that you are.
What do you mean?
So like if someone says, Aiden, don't jump on the table, I don't know that you can control whether you jump on the table or not.
No, I definitely control it, doctor. I think that's like why, like my whole life is like where I am today. I'm not listening to what everyone's doing. Have you ever seen the picture of, it's like...
But can you listen?
To what?
To what other people tell you to do?
Of course, but like I have to experience it myself. Like that's how I...
So then I'm hearing that you can't until you experience it.
Yeah, I mean I can listen, but I mean I'm still gonna probably want to do it myself. Okay?
Right? So when you want to do something...
Most people are like that though. Like for example, like when you grow up, when I grew up as a kid, when I grew up, I'm gonna stop overgeneralizing. When I grew up as a kid, I was curious, right? Like when I was in high school, I would sneak out and I would go to a party. Like that's just me being curious, even though my dad was like, yo, don't do that. Like you don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like I just think it's about me when I'm curious.
So let me ask you something. Do you control the curiosity or does the curiosity control you?
It's a good question. I think the curiosity controls me.
What do you think about that?
It's not good, Doc, but I mean, a lot of people have that. You know, it's like, it's 50-50. I think it's curiosity controls you or you control curiosity. So everyone's different. I don't know why. I think it's perspective, how you grew up. But
I think So if I can share something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I want to try to catch a couple things that you say. So other people are like that or generalizations. I'm going to actually go in the other direction. I don't care about how other people are. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
What I'm interested in this conversation is you and what your experience is. So whether other people are whatever, happy, unhappy, good, bad.
Whatever, fuck it.
Right?
We're just talking about you and I.
Yeah. And I think that some of what this emotional numbness, I think that this is connected because generally speaking, we can't control something unless we're aware of it.
Yes.
Right? So all you have to do is go to the dentist, and if you can't feel your mouth, right? So numbness and lack of awareness leads to a lack of control.
Correct.
And so what I'm kind of noticing is that you engage in behaviors that feel righteous, right? Like in your mind, they're logical and stuff. I'm not saying they're not logical. It's not my place to be the arbiter of logic and determine what is right or wrong. Whether it has to do with relationships, whether it's queens and hoes, like whatever. I'm not the arbiter of truth. What I'm hearing from you, though, is that there is a internal dimension that doesn't get a whole lot of play in the way that you interact with the world. Right? These people did this, so I'm gonna do this. This person said don't do this, so I'm gonna tell them I'm gonna do the exact opposite. It sounds like some people, that relationships that you feel emotionally connected to, you can actually listen to them. If your dad tells you, hey, Aiden, don't do this, mom says don't do this, you can like set that aside.
Yeah,
right?
I can set it aside, but I still kind of, I get curious, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah. So I mean, I think curiosity is beautiful. But my point is that, like, I don't, the thing that I'm worried the most about, I don't know if you're in control of your life. I think you have a lot of power, and I think you've managed to probably control all of these external dimensions. So it sounds like you've got financial security. It sounds like you have freedom. It sounds like you have a lot of stuff out there. But I still get the sense that you are a puppet to yourself.
100%. I agree with you on that. I'm a puppet to my career. Literally, I'm a puppet to my chat. Swear to God, I am.
What do you want to... Is that okay? How do you feel about it?
No, I don't like it at all. I hate it. But it is what it is, Doc. It is what it is.
What'd you just do there?
I did it, Doc. You're right. Yeah.
What'd you do?
I tried avoiding the feeling of it by putting a pause, like a little it is what it is on the
So what did you push away?
I pushed away the truth.
What is the truth?
I'm a puppet.
How does that feel?
It sucks.
Sucks in what way?
It hurts, Doc.
So let me toss some stuff out, okay?
All right.
What I'm hearing there is powerlessness.
It's true.
And when I hear you at the age of 40, you don't know if you're going to be alone or not. Powerlessness there too.
Oh no. I mean, you're not gonna know what you're doing by 45, Doc. To be honest, nobody knows what you know what I'm saying.
Logically, no one can predict the fucking future. I agree with you, Aiden. When I'm saying the emotional energy
okay.
is powerlessness, right? Because you're like, fuck, 99% of people treat me as Aiden Ross. There's 1%. And let me ask you something. What's more common, Aiden? Queens or hoes?
Hoes.
And what does that mean for your future?
I'm fucked.
What is the emotion that goes with I'm fucked?
It is what it is.
Right? It's powerlessness.
Yeah.
And so here's the crazy thing, okay? Now I'm gonna kind of like, I'm gonna try to say this, okay? And reject it if you want to reject it. So it's my belief that you're, like, all of these things that you're scared of, you gotta stop running away from them.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, if you admit to yourself, I am powerless, then you can do something about it. Right? You gotta meet yourself where you're at.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, you gotta say, like, when people, you know, the people who get divorced are the ones who don't think that their marriage has a problem. The people who say, this marriage is on its last legs, we gotta either bust it or try to save it. You have to admit, you have to accept the truth of what you feel.
Got it. Even though if it's the hard truth, you still gotta accept it.
Absolutely. Right? And I see you doing that. I don't see you running away from it in a way.
Yeah, I can accept it. Like, if it's in my face and I feel it, I'm not scared to accept the truth. I'm really not.
Yeah, so I hear you kind of saying it is what it is, but then you're still moving away from it. You're not actually moving towards it. And that's where, like, as you start to feel that powerlessness, I think you're gonna find, right? And now I'm fucking making a mistake here, but I think you're gonna find, as you get in touch with your feelings, that a lot of this stuff is active when you, because, like, when you're talking to a girl, I think there's a lot going on inside you. And the thing is, like, if you kind of think about it, like, you've got one really good trump card. I could be wrong, right? So you can tell me, hey, this is the generation. You're wrong, Dr. K. You don't know what it's like. So you can tell me I'm wrong. I'm going to admit that. All I want you to do is think and pay attention to yourself. Because once you start labeling people as this or this, you suddenly become really protected, right? Because the second you label someone a hoe, if you fall in love with her, that love ain't ever going to hurt you. It allows you to push her away. It allows you to like set yourself apart. It allows you to avoid connections and vulnerability.
Yes, you're right.
And so like the thing is, and so the crazy thing is that if your mind has an ulterior motive to protect you from your emotions, it'll like screw something else up.
That's good though. It's just it's defense.
You're right, it's defense. But the question is, who's in control? Are you clear-headed? Or are these things working behind the scenes?
I mean, good the way to put it, I guess. I just think that like, no, I mean that is really good way to put it. Because I don't know if I'm fully in control or not. You're right.
Right? And so all I want for you to do is like, I want you to have whatever you want.
Thank you, doctor. I appreciate that.
Really? Like,
yeah.
You know, and I think like, dude, you've accomplished so much at the age of 22. And so like, this is where like, you're kind of saying you don't have any passion for what's left, because I think you're right. You beat the game. You figured out how to succeed materialistically.
Yes. Now what?
Now you're where, you know who Gautam Buddha is?
Nope.
You know what Buddhism is?
That's the guys with the bellies, right?
Yeah, it's the guys with the bellies. So I'm gonna tell you a story, okay?
Okay.
So there was once a prince in India, and his name was Gautam Buddha. His name was Gautam.
Okay.
And Gautam had it all. So when he was actually about your age, he was the prince of a powerful kingdom. He was loved. He was
I got wrecked.
He had a queen, like a real queen, who had given him a healthy son. And so everything in life we had heard, everything in life that he had heard was like, okay, if you're unhappy, the problem is that you're dating hoes, not queens. The problem is if you're unhappy, it means you don't have enough power. If you're unhappy, you need more money, you need financial security, you need a Lambo. You can't be driving no fucking Toyota, you need a Lambo. All of these things will make you happy. And then that worked for everybody else, right? Because if I'm driving a Toyota and I don't have a Lambo, I have something to reach towards. I have something that gives me a sense of progress, right? There's some way of keeping score. And that feels really good psychologically to feel like you're making progress. But then he had everything. And one day he woke up and he was unhappy. And then he's fucked. Because what does he do now? Right? Like, how do I find happiness if I have the Lambo, I have a queen, I have a child, I'm a prince of a powerful kingdom. I'm like, what everyone else craves in the world is what I already have, and I'm still unhappy. And so he did something really weird. He gave it all up, and he's like, I gotta figure this shit out. And so then he went to these spiritual teachers and gurus and all this kind of stuff, like looking for answers. And then what he kind of discovered was that there's a lot of like internal work done. And if you tell me that you've beaten the game, I think you've beaten the external game.
Beating the external game, the materialistic aspect of things, but they're still emotional, and there's still like a that type of thing I have to master as well.
I think that's the game that like, and this is what happens is there's also this really kind of you can't meditate on an episode. And that if you really look at it, there's other stories I can tell you, but conquering the material. So I tried to become a monk when I was 21.
Oh, nice.
And I went to my teachers and I said, I'm ready to give up my life and become a monk, and I want to devote myself to spirituality in this internal game. Okay?
What happened?
My teacher said, what do you mean, give up? You've got fucking nothing. You have nothing to give up. You're a fucking failure at life.
Yo.
You have nothing worth giving up. So they said, get your ass back to, and this goes back to Harvard, okay? So now we're going to come full circle. So when I was 18 years old, I decided I was going to be pre-med, and I wanted to go to Harvard Medical School just like all the Indian kids. And I was going to be the smartest fucking doctor, and I was going to have the biggest fucking swinging dick, and I was going to be a Chad and all that kind of stuff. And I ended up failing a bunch of classes because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Then I go to India, and my teachers tell me, you have nothing worth giving up. Get your ass back to America, finish your studies, and do the best that you can. Finish a doctoral degree. And then at the age of 30, if you want to give all that shit up, if you want to take your vows, we'll take it. And so on that day, Aiden, I was like you. And I said, these fuckers don't think I can do it. I'ma show them. So I went back. I didn't give a shit about Harvard. I just wanted to be able to give up the biggest thing. And so I put myself. put myself fully into my studies, like went to med school. I didn't even show up at my award ceremony because it never dawned on my mind that I would get an award for being at the top of one of the classes.
I love that, man. That's amazing.
And like, they were also smart because they realized like being a monk ain't for me, because they're good at that kind of shit. And I think that where you are right now is like, you've got to start this journey. And like, it's the journey to be happy. And no amount, I hate to break it to you, but finding this magic being out there, it'll bring you happiness at the time, but then you're going to beat that game too. You're still going to wake up unhappy.
Wow, you're right. Damn, so I mean, the happiness comes from, so the happiness does come from being alone. Okay. Well, no, not being alone, but I would say happiness comes within, like, you're, like, you could be alone and be happy. Like, you could be, like, you don't have to be with somebody to rely on happiness or anything like that. You could do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're going to discover. And I think even if you look at your own life, you're going to discover that there are two kinds of happiness that you've experienced.
Correct.
One is going to be like this dopaminergic happiness, and one is like a quieter kind of thing.
Right.
And this numbness that you got is like getting in the way of feeling that.
All right, I gotta find spiritualness. I was spiritual at one point. I was very spiritual. I lost it. I gotta get it back. I need the light. I need to find it.
Yeah, I think you're going to be fine. The one thing I would recommend for you is just catch yourself anytime you say it is what it is. And whatever you feel, just like let yourself feel it. It doesn't have to have any implication. It doesn't need to be logicked out. Just close your eyes and just let it be there without pushing it away, without doing anything with it. Just fucking sit in it.
Okay, I'm gonna do that, doctor. I mean, like, anytime it is what it is, I'm just gonna be like, nah, it's not. It is what it is. Face it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a step in the right direction. But even then, there's a cultivation of emotion there, right? Because you're like,
Fucked up with that first card.
I'm gonna conquer.
I thought I was gonna get a bunch of worth out of it, and I
just feel
didn't get anything.
moving around quite a bit. You doing okay? Like, we're done.
I have ADHD. You want to leave me already?
I thought that I'm getting physical signals from you that you probably hit some kind of limit.
I just have ADHD, doctor. Let me stand up a little bit.
No. I mean, I think it's okay to be done. What do you think?
It is okay. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, how do you feel when you're leaving me already, doctor?
It's a joke. What do you mean?
Sure. I completely agree that you are using humor as a defense mechanism related.
No, I mean, like, it doesn't matter if you leave me or not. It's like, whatever. I'll move on to the next thing.
Okay.
But I mean, like, it's like, I meant that as a joke.
Sorry, my bad. Maybe I'm over-interpreting. Yeah, so,
right there. Yeah.
I like to, in terms of stepping away, so Aiden, I find that like 2 hours is I feel like we're in a good pausing point. And opening up a new chapter would be a commitment to like another hour or two.
Okay, I'm down to do this again.
What, can you help me understand what your experience of this conversation was?
A lot. I think you're actually starting to change my perspective on how I feel. The most important thing I gain out of this whole thing is that it is what it is. It's unacceptable. Stop accepting. Stop saying it is what it is. And I think it's time to really just let it do its thing. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I got from this conversation, first of all, Aiden, I think you're a remarkable human being who's been dealt a really good and really shitty hand at the same time. Rare to see.
Nice. So if we're playing, some poker, I got a nice, maybe like a two pair, like a, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, I think your life defies poker analogies. Like, I can't. If I was thinking about poker specifically, it's like one of these hands that like is really strong and really weak at the same time. Like there's a lot of stuff a lot of shit you've been through.
Yeah.
A lot of hurt. And also, like, a lot of exceptionalism.
Yeah.
A lot of growth.
Yeah.
And I think that I've also learned about what it's like to be a part of your generation. You're teaching me about what gender dynamics and stuff are like for some people.
Yeah, like doctor, my generation is so cooked, bro. You can now, like, kids in school, they're learning about, like, they're getting pushed, like, weird agendas and shit. It's, like, fucked up.
Yeah.
I know. You don't know. It's like bullshit. I just hate, like, my generation is just ass. It's sad.
I think that I don't feel that way, but I think it's totally fine for you to feel that way. I think your generation is getting crushed, honestly.
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
ass. Yeah.
yes. So I think they're just trying to do the best they can with the hand that they were dealt. And I was addicted to video games, and like video games weren't even that addictive when I was growing up. It's way worse now. So
Nah. Doctor, the best games were Call of Duty, Black Ops 2, fucking all them shit. Now it's ass.
all right, so another place where we agree to disagree. But Call of Duty Black Ops, man.
That's the best game of all time, Black Ops 2.
All right,
Back when I could be in game chat and call
you
somebody
should
when I want.
check out a game called. Have you played BG3?
No.
Baldur's Gate 3. Okay. And it's okay for people to like different kinds of food and different kinds of games. I don't know that we need to argue about it, but maybe one day if we really want to throw down.
What's your favorite food? I love Indian food, by the way. Mata paneer is so good with naan, garlic naan. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's just when I never have leftovers. I put my fridge, it stinks up the whole house. But I love it.
It'll do that. Stink up the armpits too.
Yeah, but I love Indian food, by the way. But what's your favorite food, though?
What do you mean by favorite? The food that I enjoy eating the most?
Yeah. I mean, that's what favorite is, right? We pretend to like.
So back when I was a monk, I detested this particular kind of food I wasn't a monk, but back in my training days, I started to fall in love with like a rice and lentil dish called khichdi, and it's the kind of thing that like, it's weird, it's like super bland, but by the end of eating that stuff every single day, I absolutely loved it. It's some of the most enjoyable food that I've eaten. But I'm a big fan of like Tex-Mex. So I've got a couple of favorites. So I really like tacos. I really like pani puri is another Indian food. It's one of my favorite Indian foods.
Have you ever had what I'm talking about, mata paneer?
I don't know what the first word is, but I'm pretty sure I've had it.
Mata paneer. It's like this dish.
M-A-T-A?
M-A-T-T-A-R.
Matar. Yeah. So it's
Matar-
peas and
What
and
the-
paneer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vegetarian dish. It's
Yeah.
Matar paneer.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I've had
I
it.
love it. So good.
Yeah. Where are you from, dude?
Florida. Where are you from, doctor?
Texas.
What part of Texas?
I'm in Houston, basically.
H-Town.
Yeah.
Houston's cool. I think Austin's really fun. Have you ever been to Austin?
I have. I went to school there.
You really?
Yeah.
Sweet. I was actually gonna go to college there, doctor. That's like where they wanted me to go to college. UT. They wanted me to go to the UT.
Yeah, I think you would have been great there.
Well, the community college first, and then UT. I would transfer.
Sure.
But
All
thank
right.
God I didn't do it, right? Oh, you want to leave now?
Yes.
All right.
Is that
Go ahead.
okay?
That's okay. I give you permission.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm not trying to pull out, but I also like, if the point where we're talking about what's my favorite food stuff, I'm totally down to like hang out sometime. I'll take you out for Indian food. Like, that's totally cool. I'm not trying to, I don't want to reject you. And at the same time, I'm married with 2 kids and it's a weekday.
Oh,
So
you got,
I
they
do
got
have
school
constraints
tomorrow.
on my time. Yeah.
Completely understand. All right, doctor. I'll let you get to your family, your normal life.
Thank you
I'd
so
like
much.
to do this. I'd like to do this again. You know, you had me sign a form. I usually hit girls with NDAs. You hit me with like a consensual form and stuff. What's going on there? Real last question.
Yeah, so it's totally fine. I think we were doing some back and forth, but then y'all ended up being okay with it. So the main thing is that we just want people to really understand that this is not therapy, right? So there's something called informed consent, and that's really the most important part of the form. And then there's also some legal stuff. So like, for example, this may get uploaded to YouTube.
What's your channel, by the way? What's your
Healthy
channel?
Gamer GG.
Healthy Gamer. Okay.
So this may get uploaded to YouTube, and so just that you consent for that to happen and stuff like that. So, and then we also have a policy where if you want something taken down, you just message us and we'll take it down. I think generally speaking, we've interviewed a couple hundred people, and you know, most of them are.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, are you allowed to talk about your other clients?
I don't.
I'm saying
probably
like
allowed to.
no. I'm saying like who have you interviewed that I would know in MySpace? Have you interviewed anybody in MySpace before?
I don't know what yours is.
streamer, like a streamer?
Yes, we've interviewed many students.
Train wrecks?
I've had several conversations with trains. Train's
What do you-
fantastic.
He's amazing. I love Train. He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
X.
Oh, is that me or him? Chat? Was that him? Aiden? Bruh? I can't hear you, bro. I'm hearing robot voice. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can go to... Oh, there we go. We're back.
Okay, doctor, go to sleep with
Okay.
your family and
This
stuff.
is
Okay,
this
we'll
is
talk.
this is the universe's way of telling us that this is a good stopping
Yeah.
point. Good luck
Yeah.
to you, Aiden.
You too. We can do this again. We'll do it again.
Yeah, sure. Let's let our people talk, okay?
All right.
All right. Thank you so
doc.
much, man.
All right.
Have a good time. Okay. All right. So. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things. So I want y'all to be careful about a couple of things, okay? So the first is like, this cooked and you got him. Like, it's not a contest. There isn't a winner and there isn't a loser, right? Like, we do this to have conversation. And like, I want y'all to really understand that this is, I really hope that watching this will help y'all. Although if you choose not to have a little bit more compassion, I won't blame you, to be honest. I really won't. But like, you know, behavior happens for a reason. So we didn't really get into this with Aiden because I don't think it's the time yet. But if we talk about, let's say, promiscuity, right? So I've worked with people who are like sex and love addicts. And I think that there's just a lack of understanding that human beings are like complex organisms. And you can have a behavior like promiscuity, which can have all kinds of reasons for it. Right? So like, let's just run through top reasons why people are promiscuous. Number one, they have low self-esteem. And so it's a badge of honor to be able to get laid in some way, right? There's an objective.
So, like, usually. Sense of like, oh, I'm a better human being because I got laid. And so like your sense of self-worth gets determined by engaging in this behavior. Right? Number two reason that people have sex is because they're afraid of being alone. Right? So if there's like Chat.
abandonment fears, and this
Have
is what I really
sniffles.
see in a lot of like my patients that
sex and love addiction, that sex begins to mean additional things. I can't get people to love me. And in the past, when people have loved me, they've abandoned me or they've hurt me. But I've got one trump card I can play to get people to stay. Right? Which is why your toxic ex is happy to put out when you guys haven't talked to each other for 6 months, because it's how y'all get fucking entangled again.
Dude, I'm getting like this this fitness guru is he might get $50 out of me. Kaylee says no. I think after turn 4, whoever is. Oh fuck, he drops it. Fuck. I don't know why he's playing. I am Iron Man. I think he maybe misclicked. He fucked up. I don't know why he's playing more cards there. Sick card. Activate on reveal abilities of the other cards on it. Activate on reveal. That's crazy.
And so this is the big thing, and I don't know if Aiden's paying attention. Totally cool if you are, bro. Loved it. Right? But your internal environment is something that a lot of us are blind to. And so then we sort of develop some of these coping mechanisms where, I know it sounds kind of weird, but there's actually research that shows that coping mechanisms lead to poor outcomes. Coping mechanisms can make your life worse. And why is that? It sounds really weird, right? Because everyone's like, learn to cope, like you meditate, like, oh, like meditate more, like meditate your problems away. But the reason for that is that when we cope, when something's bothering me in life, and I learn how to cope, I no longer need to fix it because it's not bothering me anymore. This is why people in abusive relationships end up addicted to substances. Because this person hurts me, and I can make the hurt go away by using drugs or substances or TikTok, whatever. And then as I make those feelings go away, I tolerate the relationship. Coping is not fixing. Now, coping mechanisms, judicious use of healthy coping mechanisms leads to positive outcomes. So there's it's more to it, okay? But for, I just really ask y'all that there are gonna be people out there who will piss you off, have very strong worldviews, and we can kind of see it, right? Like, what is engaging the worldview do? You can try to logic and argue and no one's fucking learning anything here. But think about how it feels to engage in that. I love it too. I love it. Because there's a part of me that's like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He has no clue. But what is that? That's arrogance on my part. It feels good to be arrogant. Who am I to say that this kid has no clue? So don't get into stupid arguments with people. And if you get into stupid arguments with people, start to think a little bit about what this does for you. When I get into arguments with idiots, I feel better about myself. And since I'm feeling crap about myself, I can do two things. I can go bully someone, or I can get some dumbass on the internet into an argument that is indefensible and bully them. And then I'm gonna see all my stuff get upvoted, I'm gonna see all their stuff get downvoted, and then I'm gonna feel good about myself. And once I feel good about myself, I'm not gonna make any changes in my life because my life is shit. And instead of fixing that, I can school noobs on the internet. This is what happens on the internet. So think a little bit about your internal environment and what drives you to do the things that you do. And it's not my place to say that the world is one way or isn't one way. I really don't know. Literally, I do not know. There's all kinds of conflicting research, all kinds of conflicting perspectives. All you can really know is what's in here. This is the only place that you can have perfect information. The rest of it
And
is
go for it. I think that's what we do.
Don't worry about all that crap. I mean, I think you should try to do good in the world, right? I'm not saying you're banging the world. But for fuck's sake, start with yourself. Start by
fucking kidding me?
Start by trying to understand yourself. Start by crafting your own destiny instead of being a puppet to your internal drives. If Aiden was a puppet to anyone else, he'd be fine. He can handle anyone, except himself. And that's the human condition. And please, y'all, don't, look, I'm not saying people shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. I have no idea, I don't know. I don't follow the guy on Twitter. It's not my place to pass judgment. That's not what we're here for. And for those of y'all that think that this interview was a mistake or whatever, you're allowed to say that. And if y'all don't want us to interview certain kinds of people, that's fine. I'm not saying that's fine as in you're allowed to have your, I mean, please let us know and tell us, right? Hey, I think this is harmful for these. We're not here to hurt people. We're here to help people. But one thing that we're just here to talk to human beings. And I believe that there's a decent human inside 99.9% of people. I've met a couple people in my clinical work that I just don't think there's a decent human in there. I gotta say that, right? I'm not such a dumb idealist that I think everyone can be saved. But for fuck's sake, we could do way better than we're doing. Right? Some people are just so neurologically impaired in their lives. We're talking about severe trauma or brain injuries or all kinds of other stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that maybe people can't change. But people like me, people like Aiden, we can change. And y'all can change too. Right? And it's not my place to say that you should change in this way. Like, if you believe that there are only two sexes or genders or whatever, like, that's false, and here's the signs. And we can fucking have that conversation one day if y'all want to, but it's useless. I mean, it's not useless. I take that back. That's dumb. It is not the conversation that I am gifted at having. And what I want y'all to do more than anything else is think about yourselves and think about, like, what's going on inside me. Because if you want freedom in this world, it's not going to come from the world. It's going to come from you. You can't control anything outside of you. And boy, if you want to lose freedom in your life, the quickest way to lose control of your life is to try to control another human being. Because when you try to control another being, I don't want this person to break up with me, you compromise yourself. I will do whatever I need to stop this person from breaking up with me, and that's when they control your life. Let people do what they want. I'm not saying you should tolerate abuse, right? But also, I've worked with people who have had to tolerate abuse for a time. And the whole problem with abuse is that we try to get people to stop instead of leaving. Anyway. So, like, learn about yourselves, y'all. There's so much power in this world that you can find in here. And I'm not talking about like finding your inner chi. I'm talking about, like, literally, if you just understand the effect of your emotions on your behaviors. This whole thing where it's like, you know, stuff comes into Aiden and stuff just flows right out. There's no, like, modification internally. The capacity to internally modify. The capacity to respond instead of react. That's what y'all should focus on. Let whatever comes in. We can't really control that. I can do some magic in here, and then what comes out can be different. And when you start controlling what comes out of you, then your life will change. Because that's all you can control. And we waste so much energy trying to control everything else. Yeah, I still meditate. Not yoga. But. Okay. All right, y'all. So I want to thank y'all. I mean, I wasn't watching comments too carefully, but I really hope that y'all were kind and compassionate. That's what we're really here for. I don't know if this is against TOS.
Fuck, she beats me if she has a... Fuck. She has a Hulk, she beats me. But if she has a Hulk, she has to play it. No, she doesn't. Okay. Ink. What if... Here we just do this. Go there. Okay, let's try that. Oh, he retreated. Let's see.
not quite sure what to do about that, but I mean, I guess if we get, you know, anyway, the cat's out of the bag now. And I think that, like, sometimes people will use language that we don't agree with or appreciate with, and, like, we can sort of let them know that, but, you know, I don't know. And I apologize if anyone's been hurt by the language that Aiden used, or I used. That's not really my intention at all. And so I'm like sorry if anyone's been hurt by anything in stream today, including me ranting at you, right? So I really appreciate everybody coming today. My hope from the bottom of my heart is that we've been able to increase awareness and understand ourselves a little bit better. I really hope that someone has benefited from this. I've certainly benefited from it. I hope Aiden benefits some from it. I hope all y'all benefit from it as well, and that's what we're doing here. So if y'all are new, this is what we do. We talk to people, and we have frank conversations with people, and, like, you know, it's my belief that, like, engaging people in dialogue is, like, really a really positive way forward. I mean, that's what I do in my day job, and it works pretty well. And so I know that the internet is judgmental, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be accountability, but that's just not, I'm not a judge. It's not my place to cancel someone or not cancel someone. So that's, like, outside of my purview. Let the smart people who know more about the difference between right and wrong figure that out. And I have no idea when we're going to be streaming next. I'm sure that it's somewhere, but frankly, chat, I'm fried. Like, just fried. And that's not a bad thing. It's just I've hit my limit for what I can do. Thank you all very much for coming. And we hope to see you again.
Nah, fuck this game.
It takes me about twice as long to get everything set up whenever I do this with phones complete.
Okay. And so what?
China's economy is in trouble and fears the country is, quote, a ticking time bomb.
The debt supercycle that came for the U.S. and Europe after the 2008 financial crisis could be knocking on China's door. They said that it is over.
What's up, Graham? It's Guys here, and it's official. China's unstoppable growth has just come to an end. That's right. Despite being the world's second largest economy, their financial system is falling apart.
Let's see.
Youth unemployment is so high they've stopped reporting it, and now they risk an even worse property crisis than before, with yet another one of their largest developers just moments away from a default, with this being the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's to come. That's why it's crucial that we break down exactly what's happening, why China's situation continues getting worse, and the impact this is about to have on all of us in the United States. Because I have to say, the more I look into this, the worse it seems to get. Although before we start, if you appreciate all the research and information that goes into making a video like this, all I ask for in return is that you hit the like button or subscribe. That's it. It helps out the channel tremendously, and as a thank you for doing that, I'll do my best to respond to as many comments as possible. So thanks so much. And
Hell yeah.
Alright, so I've said this before, but as a bit of a background, up until somewhat recently, China was on an unstoppable trajectory. That's because for the last 30 years, China's been at the forefront of production, international investment.
This game is
and
fucking
rapid
fun,
productivity,
dude.
all because of an exchange that occurred back in 1979, which gave China diplomatic relations with the United States and, by extension, the rest of the world. And once that door was open, money poured in. Countries from around the world invested in Chinese infrastructure, took advantage of low-cost labor, and helped bring much-needed funding to areas which were previously closed off. At the time, growth was so impressive that in 2001, China became a member of the World Trade Organization as a way to further strengthen ties with the United States. but it didn't go exactly as planned. For the United States, it quickly became apparent that demand for low-cost Chinese goods increased way faster than expected. More and more products were being outsourced elsewhere, and corporations moved 6 million jobs overseas to allow for higher profits. Now, even though this did bring down the cost of everyday items that we use here all the time, for China, the benefits were monumental. With all of the increased worldwide trade and foreign investment, more than 400 million people were lifted from poverty. In addition to that, their economy is now
I wonder how I got that
larger
Spider-Man
today
card
than it was
earlier.
back in 2001. They became the world's largest exporting
That thing was
nation in
sick.
2009, and they were even touted as the world's economic miracle while they grew at a faster pace than any other nation. However, not everything was exactly as it appeared on the surface, because the more China grew, the more powerful they became in relation to every other nation, the more leverage they had to put on businesses that they could then control, and the more difficult they've become to join forces with. In fact, members of the World Trade Organization allege that China's been providing illegal state subsidies to businesses to export their products, discriminating against companies who don't buy from Chinese manufacturers, and controlling supply chains through taxing raw materials. Even worse, it's said that they've been purposely devaluing their currency by as much as 40% as an incentive for other countries to buy their goods at a discount, leading, of course, to fake economic growth that's largely unsustainable, kind of like what we're seeing today. First, we have youth unemployment, which was so bad, they stopped reporting it. Now, even though this looks like an absolute train wreck from the outside, the truth is all of this really began in 1998 when China created an expansion on higher education. This provided much-needed funding to build schools, hire professors, and offer scholarships for those in need. The entire goal of this was to create a knowledge-based economy, satisfy the demand for higher educated workers, and eventually grow their country to compete with the rest of the world. As a result, it said that Chinese universities accepted about 1.6 million students in 1999, up more than 47% from the previous year. And in a way, it made higher education more like mass education to anyone who was even remotely interested, even for those who lived in rural areas or came from lower income backgrounds. However, as we could see today, there was a bit of a problem in that higher education expanded faster than market demand, meaning that there are more college graduates than there are jobs to pay them. And as a result, a high portion of Chinese youth is unemployed. As it stands right now, the jobless rate of 16 to 24-year-olds rose to 21%, which has been steadily rising each and every year since the survey was started in 2018. In fact, the unemployment rate has gotten so bad that lottery sales have increased by 50% because young people now see hitting the jackpot as their only way to achieve financial freedom. In response to this, more and more Chinese youth are choosing to stay home to take care of their parents or be a stay-at-home son or daughter because there's no other work available, especially when it's expected that 30% of China's population is going to be over the age of 65 by the year 2050. Of course, China disputes all of this and says it's a big misunderstanding that they're no longer reporting on the unemployment rate. Instead, they explain that the surveys used to collect the data just need to be further improved and optimized, which most people tend to believe is their way of simply twisting the narrative to be a little bit more positive. But I'll let you be the judge of that, and you could come to your own decision. At the end of the day, though, this is really only the very beginning, because in addition to that, we also have, second, the real estate crisis. See, throughout the last decade, China's experienced a massive real estate bubble as their citizens preferred to invest their money in property as a safety net, causing prices to increase double digits year after year. In fact, China was building 5 times as many homes as the United States and Europe combined, and supply was still so limited that several cities used a lottery system to allocate them, some with odds as low as 1 in 60. That led to 70% of the country's wealth being tied up in real estate, which is more than twice as high as we have here in the United States. At that point, property values were increasing so quickly that developers would pre-sell units where buyers would begin making payments on a property that didn't even exist yet. It didn't matter how much it would cost either. Some buyers would pay up to 23 times their annual income to buy a home, with a mortgage sometimes making up more than half of their gross take-home pay while they borrow money from friends and family just to say they own a property. I think you could see where this is going. The real estate market
Sorry, I
here
wanna
was
watch
so
this
in
get
demand
started.
that prices increased 700 need. The entire goal of
China's economy is in trouble and fears the country is, quote, a ticking time bomb.
The debt supercycle that came for the U.S. and Europe after the 2008 financial crisis could be knocking on China's door. They said that it is over.
What's up, Graham? It's Guys here, and it's official. China's unstoppable growth has just come to an end. That's right, despite being the world's second largest economy, their financial system is falling apart. Youth unemployment is so high they've stopped reporting it, and now they risk an even worse property crisis than before, with yet another one of their largest developers just moments away from a default, with this being the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's
There
to come.
is a
That's
turn
why it's
7 in
crucial
this
that we
game.
break
That's
down
so
exactly what's
sick.
happening, why China's situation continues getting worse, and the impact this is about to have on all of us in the United States. Because I have to say, the more I look into this, the worse it seems to get. Although before we start, if you appreciate all the research and information that goes into making a video like this, all I ask for in return is that you hit the like button or subscribe. That's it. It helps out the channel tremendously, and as a thank you for doing that, I'll do my best to respond to as many comments as possible. So thanks so much, and now let's begin. All right, so I've said this before, but as a bit of a background, up until somewhat recently, China was on an unstoppable trajectory. That's because for the last 30 years, China's been at the forefront of production, international investment, and rapid productivity, all because of an exchange that occurred back in 1979, which gave China diplomatic relations with the United States, and by extension, the rest of the world. And once that door was opened, money poured in.
I got, like,
Countries from
sick
around the
Forge.
world invested in Chinese infrastructure, took advantage of low-cost labor, and helped bring much-needed funding to areas which were previously closed off. At the time, growth was so impressive that in 2001, China became a member of the World Trade Organization as a way to further strengthen ties with the United States. But it didn't go exactly as planned. For the United States, it quickly became apparent that demand for low-cost Chinese goods increased way faster than expected. More and more products were being outsourced elsewhere, and corporations moved 6 million jobs overseas to allow for higher profits. Now, even though this did bring down the cost of everyday items that we use here all the time, for China, the benefits were monumental. With all of the increased worldwide trade and foreign investment, more than 400 million people were lifted from poverty. In addition to that, their economy is now 11 times larger today than it was back in 2001. They became the world's largest exporting nation in 2009, and they were regarded as the world's economic miracle while they grew at a faster pace than any other nation. However, not everything was exactly as it appeared on the surface, because the more China grew, the more powerful they became in relation to every other nation, the more leverage they had to put on businesses that they could then control, and the more difficult they've become to join forces with. In fact, members of the World Trade Organization allege that China's been providing illegal state subsidies to businesses to export their products, discriminating against companies who don't buy from Chinese manufacturers, and controlling supply chains through taxing raw materials. Even worse, it said that they've been purposely devaluing their currency by as much as 40% as an incentive for other countries to buy their goods at a discount, leading, of course, to fake economic growth that's largely unsustainable, kind of like what we're seeing today. First, we have youth unemployment, which was so bad, they stopped reporting it. Now, even though this looks like an absolute train wreck from the outside, the truth is all of this really began in 1998 when China created an expansion on higher education. This provided much-needed funding to build schools, hire professors, and offer scholarships for those in need. The entire goal of this was to create a knowledge-based economy, satisfy the demand for higher educated workers, and eventually grow their country to compete with the rest of the world. As a result, it said that Chinese universities accepted about 1.6 million students in 1999, up more than 47% from the previous year. And in a way, it made higher education more like mass education to anyone who was even remotely interested, even for those who lived in rural areas or came from lower income backgrounds. However, as we could see today, there was a bit of a problem in that higher education expanded faster than market demand, meaning that there are more college graduates than there are jobs to pay them. And as a result, a high portion of Chinese youth is unemployed. As it stands right now, the jobless rate of 16 to 24-year-olds rose to 21%, which has been steadily rising each and every year since the survey was started in 2018. In fact, the unemployment rate has gotten so bad that lottery sales have increased by 50% because young people now see hitting the jackpots as their only way to achieve financial freedom. In response to this, more and more Chinese youth are choosing to stay home to take care of their parents, kids or be a stay-at-home son or daughter because there's no other work available, especially when it's expected that 30% of China's population is going to be over the age of 65 by the year 2050. Of course, China disputes all of this and says it's a big misunderstanding that they're no longer reporting on the unemployment rate. Instead, they explain that the surveys used to collect the data just need to be further improved and optimized, which most people tend to believe is their way of simply twisting the narrative to be a little bit more positive. But I'll let you be the judge of that, and you could come to your own decision. At the end of the day, though, this is really only the very beginning, because in addition to that, we also have, second, the real estate crisis. See, throughout the last decade, China's experienced a massive real estate bubble as their citizens preferred to invest their money in property as a safety net, causing prices to increase double digits year after year. In fact, China was building 5 times as many homes as the United States and Europe combined, and supply was still so limited that several cities used a lottery system to allocate them, some with odds as low as 1 in 60. That led to 70% of the country's wealth being tied up in real estate, which is more than twice as high as we have here in the United States. At that point, property values were increasing so quickly that developers would pre-sell units where buyers would begin making payments on a property that didn't even exist yet. It didn't matter how much it would cost either. Some buyers would pay up to 23 times their annual income to buy a home, with a mortgage sometimes making up more than half of their gross take-home pay while they borrow money from friends and family just to say they own a property. I think you could see where this is going. The real estate market here was so in demand that prices increased 700% from the year 2001 to 2017. So in an effort to curb appreciation, the government came out with more regulation to restrict who was able to get a loan. And as they said, homes should be for living, not for speculation. But it was too little too late. With China's economy suddenly slowing down, property developers had a harder time raising capital to stay afloat. They couldn't afford to finish all of their in-construction units. And even though this started with the property giant Evergrande, within 4 weeks, more than 320 projects in about 100 cities were facing protests, roiling markets, and forcing authorities to corral banks and developers to defuse the unrest. Now, flash forward to more recently, Evergrande filed for bankruptcy. And today, an even larger property developer, Country Garden, is also facing similar concerns, while it was warned that they may also default on their debts, which is as high as $230 billion across nearly 1 million unfinished apartments. And yes, that's billion with a B, as in be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Anyway, in response to this, China began lowering their interest rates as a way to help spark economic growth. But just like the previous situations before us, it's often too little too late, with more than 50 developers having already fallen behind, leading to yet another economic disaster, which is deflation. For those unaware, deflation is practically the opposite of inflation, where instead of prices rising, they're falling. And even though this sounds like it could be a good thing, it's not. See, when prices come down, it's a sign of less demand. And when your money becomes more valuable, the longer you hold on to it, the less likely you are to spend it, which causes prices to fall even further and starts the cycle all over again until eventually companies scale back, produce less, and the entire economy falls into the abyss. Okay, that might be slightly exaggerated, but you get the point. In China's case, their consumers are very reluctant to spend money after 3 years of lockdown, resulting in prices falling 0.3% in July. Companies are also taking note of this and reducing their workforce, which leads to even more deflation with less money available to be spent.
Merge this card with a random friendly card in its
consumers are spending less, in part because a slump in housing prices has affected their savings, much of which are tied up in property. Jobs tied to the housing market that were once abundant are disappearing, and the uncertainty of how far the crisis might spread is leaving companies and small businesses afraid to spend. This suggests that as the real estate market falls, consumer spending is only going to get worse, and as one analyst wrote, we're witnessing a gear shift in what has been the most dramatic trajectory in economic history, especially since real estate makes up 30% of their GDP. Now, on the bright side, falling prices in China may very well help our own inflation battle here in the United States, since weaker foreign demand has less influence to push up prices. But for China and its investors, slower demand is likely to lead to slower growth. And that will come at the expense of their own citizens if and when the market collapses. And finally, the straw that broke the camel's back, a shadow banking crisis. See, unlike the traditional banks that have a very strict framework in terms of how they're allowed to operate, shadow banks are allowed to operate within the unregulated industries, including hedge funds, private equity, and investment banks, without all the red tape that somewhat gets in the way. Now, don't get the wrong idea, because because these shadow banks don't operate like a typical bank account, where someone comes in, they make a little deposit, they have a checking and savings account, and so on. Instead, these shadow banks mainly cater to other businesses, funds, and large investors who want a higher return than usual.
Pussy.
Except in this case, a lot of those returns were pegged to the real estate market, which, as you've seen, is not doing so well. And that brings us to today.
Should escape while you could, Eduardo.
Is now under a microscope after missing payments to 3 publicly traded companies, resulting in protests outside of their offices in Beijing. What makes this even worse, however, is that there is a strong likelihood of contagion spreading throughout the entire market. After all, if they don't make their payments, companies don't get their money. And if companies don't get their money, that means they could fall behind with their investors. And essentially, that could cause a domino effect throughout the entire economy. Now, as for their official statement, a potential informant said that we can't make any public announcement now. The main reason is that we're still actively checking our underlying assets, and we're trying our best to recover the assets for you. Now, if we disclose the underlying assets for a certain product, it might cause a dramatic shrinking of the assets. We can't do this because this is being irresponsible. Now, keep in mind that none of that is confirmed, and it's probably just as likely to be coming from a random person who is just making stuff up. But I do also have to say it is a real concern that should be taken seriously. And in terms of how this could affect the rest of the United States, here's what you need to know. When it comes to this, the good news is that it appears as though the United States has very little exposure to China's financial crisis. For instance, one analysis explains that in the big picture, the United States controls about $215 billion of direct investment in China, along with $300 billion worth of portfolio investments consisting of their stocks and bonds. So if you could math, that's about $500 billion worth of direct investment. Even though that sounds like a large number, in comparison, the United States stock market is worth $46 trillion. The entire value of all of our real estate is worth another
After any card is played here, this moves to
and
another
U.S.
location.
office buildings, which are said to be the epicenter of the next financial meltdown, is worth $2.6
After you play a card here, add a copy.
Or I guess in other words, our exposure to China is such a small fraction of a percent that any disruption in that is not going to have a sizable effect in our economy. On top of that, it's also said that China's contribution to U.S. trade is less than 1% of our GDP, so it's also unlikely to have a large effect on consumer demand. Instead, I tend to think the bigger concern here is irrational investors panicking over nothing and causing temporary sell-offs. But then again, something like this isn't necessarily anything new.
You also draw this card on
all of this
turn
is a
2 and not
reminder
before.
that China still has a very long way to go if they want to overtake the United States and eventually replace the US dollar. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll do my best to respond to as many comments as I possibly can. Oh, and also don't forget that you could get some free stocks worth all the way up to a few $1,000s when you make a deposit using a paid affiliate link down below in the description. Feel free to do that. It'll take you like 10 minutes to do. It's a pretty good ROI, so let me know which stocks you get. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Bennett.
And I'm Amna Nawaz. On the NewsHour tonight, Republican presidential candidates looking
Dude, I
to
want to watch that
unseat
debate.
Donald Trump as the GOP frontrunner prepared to debate for the first time this election cycle.
An airplane crashes in Russia, killing everyone on board. On the passenger list, the leader of the Russian mercenary group responsible for an attempted coup.
And India becomes the latest nation to successfully land a spacecraft on the moon, visiting previously untouched terrain.
The more we know about what the situation is there for water at the South Pole, the more scientists get interested in this place.
That for now.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by
Moving our economy for 160 years. BNSF.
All right, let's see what that
the
does.
Engine that connects us.
The Walton Family
Ooh,
Foundation,
he got rid of his.
working for solutions to protect water during climate change so people and nature can thrive together. Supported by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. More information at macfound.org.
So this wins this.
And with the ongoing support of these institutions.
He's gonna try to win.
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the News Hour. We begin with two major stories tonight. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner mercenary group, was on board a plane that crashed in Russia today, leaving no survivors.
Directly at the end of the turn, discard a power card from your hand.
The crash comes
that
2
has
months after
power.
Prigozhin's attempted coup against the Kremlin. We'll have more on this shortly.
But first, Republicans are set to hold the first presidential debate of the 2024 election season tonight. A field of 8 challengers is gathered in Milwaukee for this first debate, as the current
I wrecked his ass.
President Donald Trump is notably absent. Our own Lisa Desjardins is at the debate and joins us now for a preview of what's to come. So, Lisa, you've been talking to the various campaigns all day. What are they telling you? What should we look for tonight?
Well, I have to stress, this is the first Republican primary presidential debate in 7 years. A lot of layers have added up. It's 100 degrees here in Milwaukee. This could be a fascinating set of dynamics. And at the top of that is a look at the stage itself. 8 candidates will be on stage tonight. It's a sort of governor's club, 6 of them current or former governors, along with 2 others. And
simple thing. We got to get our name.
Issuing a pre-buttal.
Tonight in prime time, Americans will have an opportunity to see in action the most extreme, the most divisive, the most chaotic slate of presidential candidates in history. And I don't know if it's going to be a debate, but more like a circus.
But Team Biden is not addressing how it will handle Republican criticism of the president's son or congressional investigations into the first family.
McCarthy wakes up every day praying he still has 218 votes to be Speaker of the House. We have really no time to focus on what McCarthy says.
To the stream. It might be the biggest election night of 2024 so far. Republicans vying for the White House. Tonight, the first GOP.
What the fuck is the debate, man? You guys enjoy this. I'll be back.
Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another stupendous show for you today. Hello, Brianna.
Hello, Robbie.
What's happening? What's shaking?
All right, well, we have an update on Maui. After touching down in Maui yesterday, the president and first lady were met with some anger by some residents who say the current administration is abandoning the victims of the island's deadly wildfires. A group of protesters posted up across from the airport shouting expletives at Biden's motorcade shortly after his arrival, and another resident on the island displayed a sign on their lawn saying, quote, "Trader Joe must go." The president kept his visit short after attending a few fire-stricken sites and paying his respects to victims during a ceremony. He and the First Lady returned to Air Force One. They then flew to Lake Tahoe to finish their vacation. The host of Morning Joe defended the president after video appeared to show him falling asleep during yesterday's short events. Let's watch.
It's the same thing with this Joe Biden and his sleeping deal. You actually look at the longer video. He coughs. He bows his head like the woman next to him. He takes like 4 deep breaths, like he's trying to catch his breath. We don't know why. Maybe he was moved. And then he's like nodding, looks up. And yet the screaming headline says, Biden's sleeping, Biden's sleeping, Biden's sleeping. And he coughs. And now look at this. Okay, goes down. He's been traveling a lot. Look at this. He takes 1, 2, catching his breath. By the way, the lady next to him several times, head bowed too, is very moving. And, he's listening to the speaker. He goes, yes. He raises his head. Oh, my God, it's the end of the world as we know it. The only thing, Willie, the only thing that we can thank God for is that Joe Biden was not wearing a tan suit, because then it would have been a total meltdown on the floor, right? But I will tell you, the people of Maui, and again, read the local coverage. Don't listen to the lies on Trumpy outlets. Read the local coverage. All incredibly positive.
Wearing a tan suit or perhaps even riding a bicycle. Even worse, Joe. That could have been big news as well. Yes. If you're watching this morning and you have no idea what we're talking about, it's because you live in the rational world where this was an insignificant moment, not a controversial one anyway.
Hello from the irrational world, Robbie.
They were big mad about this. Look, maybe we should have been a little bit more careful. It's not totally verified, I guess, that he fell asleep. He looked pretty out of it to me.
But wait a minute. To me, the claim wasn't, I know for a fact he was in the middle of a REM cycle. The claim was his eyes were closed and his head was nodding during the remarks. And I'm sorry, I don't know if that video was supposed to be exculpatory. That's exactly the video that we all showed. I didn't feel like the lengthier time frame of it added anything to my perception of what happened, which is that it looked like he nodded off.
Kind of looks like he's doing that. Have you ever been at a conference, or the worst is driving, when you're like...
Well, no, I don't. I don't drive.
Wow.
But yes, I've been in class, meaning an 8 a.m. class, where I've done that thing, which...
I can't imagine you particularly awake for an 8 a.m. class.
Well, he's 90 fucking years old.
That I'm not a morning person.
Of course he had a little nap.
They were really mad at us in particular. There's this NBC News article about this. So that's MSNBC. Twitter X didn't immediately respond to an email request for comment about the Hannity video. They're claiming there's like a lower quality video that was shown by, and Fox News, on which Hannity has a show, also didn't immediately respond to a request. Several videos on YouTube used the lower resolution video to allege that Biden fell asleep. One from Tim Pool had 116,000 views. Another from The Hill, that's us, had 118,000 views. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And a third from a self-described motorcycle enthusiast had 3,000 views. YouTube, and then this goes on. YouTube bans misleading content if it has been technically manipulated or doctored in a way that misleads users and may pose a serious risk of egregious harm. YouTube didn't immediately respond to an email request for comment. You see what they're trying to do there?
Yeah,
they're trying to get us banned.
Okay, but this is what I don't get it, Robbie. I didn't know that there were two different qualities of video. When I watched that video from the Joe Scarborough show, it looked just like the video that I've seen. I'm sorry, I didn't see the difference. I was waiting with bated breath to be disabused of my belief that he had actually nodded off. Am I missing something? I didn't see.
I mean, I can't hear him snoring. Maybe he's more engaged in this in the remarks he's hearing than anyone has ever been in the history of time. Maybe we played a video. Was it doctored? Was it like we're just asking questions? Was it doctored? Who doctored this video? Was it Russia? Like that's the tone of what they're doing here.
Exactly. Also,
they want
the way,
us banned from.
It is also not a crime and not disqualifying to be president to fall asleep during an event. Biden's real problem is that people are talking about him falling asleep. Biden's real problem is two. One, that the whole circumstance of his visit to Maui looks bad because it seems like it happened too late. He delayed ending his vacation to go there. He was there only a short period of time so he could return to his vacation.
He talked about that he almost singed the wheels of his motor, of his Corvette.
He made a coarse analogy between people, all these people who've lost their lives and homes to his kitchen fire that could have hurt his precious vintage car. And the bigger problem, next to the callousness which people say he's treated the Maui situation with, is the fact that he has had many events and gaffes for his whole career, but particularly in recent years, where he seems slower, sleepier, less articulate, and less able than he did in years past. Nobody would care. I mean, some people would care if Obama, let's say, had nodded off. But the implications of it wouldn't be the same. The implications that you're not fit to lead, not because you nodded off one time, as we all have done, but because it seems to be part and parcel of a growing group of evidence that perhaps you are not cognitively fit or even physically ready to do another 4 years.
Exactly. It's a totality of things. It's the way he sounds, how slow he is, how unfocused and disengaged he seems. And like this is all for optics, right? His presence there doesn't actually, whether they get assistance or how much money they're getting, actually has no bearing on whether he's there or not. He's there, it's ceremonial, it's about optics. It's all about optics, his visit. The president's visit, he's not actually the one coordinating any relief efforts, and it doesn't matter, and if he was, it wouldn't matter if he was there or not. So it's only about the optics of it. So for him to look like he's out of it or asleep is really just as bad as to actually be it, because it's only about optics.
Yeah, that's the whole point of why you're there. I think that's a really excellent point, Robbie.
Yeah.
What do you make of the choice? Because I saw some people criticizing Biden for ultimately going to Hawaii but still choosing not to go to East Palestine. I saw some people arguing, well, because Hawaii is blue, it went for Biden, it's Obama country, that he cares more about those people than he did in East Palestine, Ohio. What do you make of these kind of arguments? And now that he has demonstrated he can go to a tragedy, he is able to go to the site of a disaster, does that make the choice not to go to East Palestine look that much worse?
I think we're going to talk about that later in the show, but maybe he saw that Secretary Mayor Pete's visit didn't go over well. He said, I'll let Pete take the heat on this one, and I'll stay at home.
Well, I'm not sure that was a good calculation, considering the Maui visit didn't seem to go off with flying colors either, but stick around. We'll have more Rising for you right after this. No-show Biden. It's been 172 days since a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, prompting a controlled burn and resulting environmental crisis among residents. President Joe Biden, though, has yet to visit the town, a slight the mayor of East Palestine isn't happy about.
East Palestine's mayor says there is probably more the White House could do to help expedite the cleanup, but it has been 170 days now since President Biden said he would come visit, and there still aren't any plans in place for that visit to happen.
They're a no-show here, and they haven't been around, haven't really heard from them. But now that everything's calmed down, it would be nice to have him come, show that he cares about the village, and he can see what's actually going on here.
East Palestine's.
Now, you'll remember last week we spoke to a status quo reporter, Louis DeAngelis, who's been on the ground in East Palestine in the months following the crisis. Here's just one of his interviews with the residents.
Relocation inevitably, and I hope that it's not the case, but when the relocation inevitably ends, that's kind of unclear for you still.
I guess then you go back home, you sit, you wait, and
I'm fucked.
hope the
I had
hell
such
you don't
good
get
cards
cancer
for him.
and die. I'm not worried so much about me. It's my family. My grandkids. Do I want to see them suffer? No, I don't. Biden needs to step up and help. We're United States. Help us.
So obviously this is happening at the same time that Biden did visit Maui, a trip that the perception of which is, among at least some people, a lot of people, is that it's not going very well, that he appeared...
He beats me if he drops.
Very old, not super clued
No.
into.
You have to drop Hulk and him.
Told an anecdote that was kind of ill-timed. There's a lot of
He
debate
beats
over
me
whether
there.
he actually fell asleep during this ceremony. Mainstream media said that he's
Did I
not.
win?
Was
Yes, that was crazy.
Maybe he was. You know, you can judge for yourself looking at the video footage. But the residents of Palestine, Ohio, or at least the mayor, do want him still to visit.
Yes. So everyone probably remembers that Donald Trump did make a visit there in typical and classic, I should say.
Ordered a cheeseburger.
Knew the McDonald's menu better than the people who worked at McDonald's themselves. I think he said that to like laughter and applause. And, you know, it was a trip that made him seem in some people's eyes presidential again. And the contrast between somebody who was no longer president being in that moment, being present to listen to the people's concerns, and the real president not showing up was, I think, a little bit of a turnaround point for Donald Trump. Because remember when he first launched, people said that he was low energy. They said that his initial launch event was not as well attended or not as raucous as they've come to expect from Trump events. People were thinking, oh, Ron DeSantis is going to be the guy. But over time, events like this, I think, reminded folks about why they liked Trump in the first place. And I think because of Trump's visit, East Palestine in particular got politicized in this interesting way, where I don't want to impute bad faith to any, Republican voters, but historically, there has not necessarily been as much commitment from Republican electeds to spending domestically on crises. But because it was a moment to say Biden isn't doing enough and the Republicans are doing more, there has been all this advocacy for doing more for the people of East Palestine and criticisms of the EPA in terms of not doing enough in terms of testing and not getting enough involved, actually advocating for more government accountability and involvement in this particular arena. And I wish so badly that Democrats had taken that as an opportunity to say, great, we want to do domestic spending to resolve domestic crises. Let's talk about Flint. Let's talk about Jackson. I'm sure you guys are all going to vote for spending on all of these places all around the country that have decomposing infrastructure, where it's the pipe infrastructure or the bridges falling down in Pennsylvania. It's go time. And of course I want to help the citizens of East Palestine, regardless of what their voting record is. But instead we've had this upside down world where there has been this choice that I don't understand to just cede East Palestine to the conservatives, to go to Maui, but only after your vacation in Tahoe, to which you returned. It's not even clear to me if Biden were
so
on
that's
the West
about
Coast,
somewhere's
would he have
about to get
gone
nuked.
Hawaii would have seemed too far away a trip. There's something
Got
that
an
seems
Ant-Man,
convenient. We'll
Rocket
stop by
Raccoon.
Hawaii since we're already out
It's
west.
still a long. It's still a long way. Hawaii is out there.
For sure.
Yeah, what I found most, you talk about ceding the whole East Palestine issue to conservatives. I mean, an aspect of it that I found really interesting is you brought up the EPA. Right, the EPA, that's the government scientists. They all say it's fine. They say it's safe, it's fine, you can drink the water, everything's fine. And of course, mainstream liberals now their cardinal belief is we must trust the government scientists.
Yeah.
And government scientists say it's fine. And we've had Louis DeAngelis on the show. He can show you, if you look at the water, it's got that quality where it looks like, oil
that
or
rainbow
the rainbowy thing.
Yeah.
It's celebrating a little Pride Month there in the water. It doesn't look clean to me, but the government scientists say it. So can't we trust? How could we live with ourselves if we started contradicting the science, right?
Yeah, look, I think we are 100% on the same door when we talk about the way that these government industries are co-opted, particularly by people that work for the industries that the government organizations are supposed to be regulating. This is a huge issue. In fact, my former environmental law professor was just the center of controversy on the left because she was on the board of, I don't want to misstate it, but I think an oil company. And people were outraged. Your whole shtick is teaching people about the regulatory state and all of the ways that kind of corporate interests have tried to chip away at it so that they can pollute more freely and be under-regulated. And here you go, using that expertise ostensibly to help benefit one of the very organizations that you taught us 15 years ago was such a bad thing. Freeman is her name.
I mean, in general, the EPA is not a friend to industry. I mean, the EPA's main role is to make it more difficult to build houses, factories, everything. To
Let's close down.
I mean, it's the
Fuck,
law,
keep
not the
deep.
EPA,
And we
but
push there.
The environmental impact
Okay,
reports,
we push
which
there.
are really costly
I
and really
win.
slow down. Building of houses, it could be low-income houses. They could. I mean, I know you and I have different views of deregulation, but there is a getting in the way of building things we need even to make like working people's lives a little bit better. That is part of the environmental impact.
Look, what is true is that it is a difficult cost-benefit analysis that has to be done whenever you're doing these kinds of projects. And this came up on the show recently as we had Michael Schellenberger on, who was really lamenting the effect that energy development, wind turbines were having potentially, allegedly, on the whale population on the East Coast. And he was making the argument that these wind turbines shouldn't be built.
Wait, we don't
because they were
push there.
causing
What
these
the
whale
fuck just
deaths.
happened?
And I said, well, that's interesting, but this seems very much in contradiction to the argument that many conservatives make that you shouldn't stop development and progress and infrastructure projects simply because it's going to kill some endangered frogs.
Well, he doesn't
somewhere
describe
in
himself as a conservative. I was skeptical of that for that reason because I'm skeptical of trying to preserve or of overly putting our thumb on the scales of stopping development for environmental reasons.
I got absolutely fifth on
whether
there.
we're talking about whales or whatever else.
Damn it,
Michael
man.
Schellenberger's general approach, he's described it, he believes that economic growth can continue without negative environmental impacts. He's like a pro-technology, pro-development, pro-nuclear energy kind of a guy, despite the fact that all of those things also have negative environmental impacts, right? Like there's no perfectly clean energy. That doesn't exist. That's the whole point. And so the question isn't energy good, energy bad, nukes good, nukes bad. It's what are the cost benefits analysis and how can we make the world safer while having minimal harm.
Well, and his
to
argument, I
various
mean, we have him on all the time, so I shouldn't try to summarize his arguments because we can just have him on. But I think his argument, is that moving from, it's directional. You should move from coal to natural gas to nuclear. You should get cleaner.
All right, so that's gonna get that location's gonna get ruined at one point.
Like that's not the issue. The question is whether or not it seems the building of the turbines, not the turbines themselves, but the construction of the turbine interrupted the whale's habitat in these ways. So that we're getting far away from the point, but the question is whether or not there is a now understood desire, it's an understood need for there to be some institution, some company somewhere that is willing to do what the EPA in this instance was unwilling to do, which is to say, run the kind of tests
One
that
cost
Louis
cards
DeJoy
have-
said weren't actually being run for all of the chemicals that were involved in the crash, and not just some of them,
please.
and measuring all of the places that it could have landed and infiltrated people's homes and water and environment, not just some of them. Because there is an interest, especially when there is potential federal aid on the line, for even the government to downplay the costs of something like this, especially if they're unwilling to make the companies pay for the cost to the extent that they should, because and the Lever did a great job of covering all of this. The deep entrenchment of the railroad industry's influence in the government, particularly with some regional Congress members who've been fighting tooth and nail to prevent some of the regulations that could potentially have stopped the derailment in the first place from ever coming into effect, because the short-term costs were something they didn't want to pay. Even though the long-term costs of having derailments like this, if they were actually forced to pay for them, would make it more than worth their while. So it's not easy.
After you play
I really
a
enjoy these
3
conversations
or
with you, Robbie, because I do feel like it
4
starts to
cost
expose
card,
the
move
extent
it
to which
here.
this really flat argument about, well, government is good and is going to solve everything, or government is
Go
bad and is not
there.
going to solve everything, really ignores the extent to which it's human beings that are being elected and appointed as a consequence of our representative democracy that are ultimately going to be most accountable and able to do what the human beings that elected them wanted them to do. And the farther we get away from representative democracy, the farther we get away from having a one-person, one-vote principle, the more we have a political institution that can be so easily corrupted, in part, I would argue, because of the influence of money in politics. You're going to be in a world where it feels like nothing works. The private sector isn't working, the public sector isn't working, people throw up their hands and they are exhausted
that one
and
there.
they check out. And I think that is also
Hopefully
part of by
secure
design,
this.
because if we all check out, then who gets to drive the ship?
Then we'll drop.
Not us.
Right. Well, and the kind of roadblocks that entities like the EPA
We might be
put up
spreading
are
ourselves
not
out a little thin there, but
particularly democratic all the time, because obviously these are bureaucrats. I mean, ideally you have, like, let's say we want to, I don't know, we want to have a low housing development or something, or a new mall or a community pool
So
or
we push
something.
there?
And you hold a public
No, he wins
comment
that.
period about the city council has people come in, and looks like
Okay.
there's public support to do it. And if there isn't and they do it anyway, then you would vote out those city council in a democracy. But they can't do it, or maybe they can do it, but like 15 years from now after they complete all the paperwork because of bureaucracies like the EPA, that's actually voiding the democratic process.
So is to me, the fact that there are mechanisms like notice and comment periods suggest democracy. It suggests that there is an opportunity for people to weigh in a way that is beneficial. If the people in the community would rather save the endangered frogs, okay, that's on them. If people in the community would rather have the bridge, well, then that's
What?
on
They
them.
fucking
Like, if
got
there's
me?
something to me, even if I disagree with the decision,
Ow.
that sits well with me in a way that other kinds of
Oh my
decisions that aren't democratic don't sit with me.
The law requires.
But it also takes
You
time,
beat me by
right?
fucking-
And allow notice and comment period. So these are all the trade-offs.
Well, it's not so much the notice and comment period is fine, but they require. I'm specifically harping on the policy of requiring the environmental impact report, which is pointless anyway, because then it's this giant, like 8 trillion page document that gets produced that no one's going to read anyway. It just slows the process for no reason, and it costs a lot of money for the entity that's going to do it. And then the whatever expert gets selected has a lot of sway over I mean, there's going to be like legitimate disagreements on what the actual environmental impact of this thing will be, because it's very speculative, and it's costly to produce it. It takes forever. The report that is actually produced gets like entered into the record, but no one on earth is going to read it. It seems like it's a lot of paperwork that slows things down that I'm saying is not democratic. It's government, but it's not democratic.
So do you think that there should be environmental impact reports, but the process needs to be sped up, or they need to be shorter? Or do you think that there should be no assessment of the environmental impact of a construction project?
I'm saying the way it is now, the assessment is mostly used as a cudgel to thwart all development, even the development of things that not just like another
Sure,
oil
but that's
factory,
my question. That's the way it's used now. So are you saying that you recognize the utility of assessing whether or not a project is going to have some horrible downstream effects?
I mean, you can assess it in the process of the city council or whatever the entity is deciding they want to do it, right? The community can speak up and say, oh no, this would not be a good idea for this
wait
reason.
a minute.
And that's,
An environmental impact report, it's not a layman's understanding of what's going to happen. It's someone has to come in and actually research what the environmental impact is, who has the ability to assess that.
I'm saying how we put public land, what use it's put for, should be back in the hands of the people and their representatives, not unelected bureaucracies.
Yeah, I agree, but what I'm asking is, the people might want to know the environmental impact of something before it gets built. Like, how are they going to make an informed decision? So it seems to me, what I'm getting at is, what it seems to me is, if you have an issue with the time it takes to do an environmental impact report, that's not an argument against environmental impact reports. That's an argument against how they're done.
Okay, it's an argument against how they're done.
Yeah, so I think that's really useful, because I think so many of these conversations, it's like we're disagreeing. We're not really disagreeing. You saying something like bureaucracy is time-consuming and it slows things up, and sometimes that's bad. Yeah, that's an intuitively correct statement. Of course, sometimes stuff takes too long and that has a bad outcome. But instead of saying, well, therefore we shouldn't have government, I'm like, well, I'm open to your.
Say therefore we shouldn't have government.
I'm obviously, I don't mean to say that you literally said that, but you're generally a small government person. So, but instead of like leading all the way and throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I wish we could all be open and say, yeah, there's some downsides to the administrative state. How do we
cost
improve
one
them?
less for each unspent energy
We should work toward improving them.
last term.
Cool. All right, more rising after this.
Hear this. Get this going.
A good friend. That's how one of the DOJ prosecutors previously tasked with investigating Hunter Biden described his relationship to the president's son in never-before-seen emails. This, according to the Washington Examiner, which also found that several prosecutors handling the Hunter Biden investigation are Democratic donors.
The unraveling of the original sweetheart plea deal and the Department of Justice's subsequent promotion of David Weiss to special prosecutor has the Justice Department's even most sympathetic analysts scratching their heads. Let's check in on CNN's read on this.
It's really inexplicable to me. I mean, first we had basically 5 years of behind-the-scenes investigation with no transparency, no action, and some questions being asked. What's taken so long? But in the last couple months, we've seen a pattern here, and Marshall just laid it out. We've now seen it play out
Let's
2 or 3
go.
separate times. DOJ moves towards a very lenient disposition. They're just about to lock in that lenient disposition, and then there arises pressure, either through whistleblower testimony or through public scrutiny, and then DOJ backs off and says, actually, we're not going to do that now that it's been called out. We're going to try to up it a little bit. And then that happened again. And then they go all the way to appointing special counsel, the same guy who's been presiding over the case for 5+ years already. So I genuinely am perplexed by what DOJ is doing here. I think they've made a real mess for themselves, and now they're going to have to deal with the consequences of it.
The long-anticipated Hardcore Realms and Classic WoW will be releasing very soon worldwide. These realms will finally be an official chance for players to prove their prowess on a one-life character and see just how far you can get, be that to the Goldshire Inn or all the way to Kel'Thuzad. There have been plenty of changes to these realms too to make them fit this new playstyle, and since the PTR has gone up, we now know a good amount more about how things will be on these servers, so that is what I'm going to be going over today. All the changes to expect on the Hardcore realms, how they will work, and what you should expect on your hardcore journey. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Factor 75. Have you ever wanted to stick to a certain eating regime, but don't always have the time to do it?
Oh,
Balancing
man.
everything can be difficult, but Factor 75 offers convenience to make it easy. Factor 75 are delicious dietitian-approved meals delivered straight to your doorstep. These meals are calorie counted, and the weekly menu features over 30 restaurant-quality meals, including keto, calorie-smart, vegan, and vegetarian options. No matter the dietary restrictions, there will be something for everyone. But the biggest benefit will be that you're not spending ages in the kitchen, as each meal is ready in 2 minutes. It's microwavable food, but just not in any way that you've seen it before. There is even insulated packaging, meaning you don't have to be at home when the delivery is made, and the contents will remain refrigerated for some time. So whether it's better eating
I don't
habits,
know. I
reaching
might.
goals, or
Maybe we
anything
should
in
retreat.
between, make a start with Factor 75. You can use my link or go to factor75.com and use code POGWILLORG50 for 50% off your first box. Then again, you can click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. Many thanks to Factor 75 for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. Hardcore Realms will be releasing worldwide on August 24th at 3 PM PDT. Times are shown worldwide on the screen here. Classic has always had global releases at the same time though, so it's going to be midnight in Europe as per usual. Regarding the realm names, Blizzard recently said in an interview that they didn't want to release them in advance to avoid another mega server situation happening again. But on both EU and NA, these server names are now available. However, at the moment you can't log in to reserve a name. On Europe we have Necrosh and Stitches, and on North America there is Defias, Pillager and Skull Rock. I am kind of surprised that they didn't just do one server per region, but then again it is hardcore, the main focus of the game mode is leveling, so even if you do end up on the less populated server, it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. Of course, these servers are permadeath for your character, and you have one life and that is it. The
Oh
Warlock Soul
man,
server
I
will
thought
not
for
work,
sure I was
nor
gonna
will the
lose that.
Shaman's Ankh. Also, paladins can no longer use their Hearthstone when under the effects of Divine Shield, or in other words, Bubble Hearth has been disabled, so no get out of jail free card once per hour. The Flask of Petrification, which allows players to drop group and escape dangerous situations when in an instance though, will be remaining in the game and will be unchanged. Blizzard's reasoning is that it will be a considerable investment to craft them on a fresh realm, and they will offer some level of protection for high-end characters. However, should the unthinkable happen and your character meets their untimely end, probably against a kobold, they are not technically gone forever. You can release and remain as a ghost and socialize with your other fellow ghosts, or you can transfer for free to a classic era realm. So if you did have a character which you were enjoying playing, it is not gone forever if it dies on a hardcore server. But obviously, if you do want to carry on hardcore servers, you're going to have to load up that character creation screen and go again. There have also been some changes made to prevent some of the more uncontrollable situations that can come up. Disconnecting on a flight path and reconnecting should now teleport you to a nearby graveyard instead of just randomly dropping you out of the air to your inevitable doom. And should you suffer a good old standard disconnect, the time between your disconnect and the automated character log off has been lowered. Since these have just been tested on the PTR so far, we don't entirely know the ins and outs of exactly how this will work, but I'm sure we'll find out more once the servers are live. Blizzard's hardcore realms, unlike the unofficial ones, will have no restrictions when it comes to grouping, trading, mailbox, or auction house. Anything and everything goes. This does bring the good, such as grouping for quests, the ability to easily run dungeons, and a unique hardcore economy, and the bad, such as botting and gold farmers out in the world looking to profit from this fresh environment. Speaking of trading and grouping, Blizzard's hardcore servers will not feature any additional alternative playstyles at launch. Blizzard have expressed interest for a more solo-oriented path through the game, or what players call solo self-found or SSF, but they have confirmed they will not be doing
What's this
it
guy
at
do?
launch. On top of that, they've also said they won't
Your
be
opponent draws a
enforcing
card,
the
says
solo
that
part
its
of it,
cost is
as
6.
even on unofficial realms, this was selectively applied so players could run dungeons whilst leveling. For Blizzard, when they eventually get round to it, it will more just be having a self-sufficient character that cannot trade, use the mail, or the auction house. We don't know when this will be though. What there will be faster respawns on named mobs throughout the world to help players get through those type of quests a little bit faster. You can also group up, remember, so hopefully the old quests that were often bottlenecks will now be able to be passed pretty quickly. Monster leashes have also been adjusted so that they cannot be kited forever. This is one of the changes made, or you can transfer for free to a classic era realm. So if you did have a character which you were enjoying playing, it is not gone forever if it dies on a hardcore server. But obviously, if you do want to carry on hardcore servers, you're going to have to load up that character creation screen and go again. There have also been some changes made to prevent some of the more uncontrollable situations that can come up. Disconnecting on a flight path and reconnecting should now teleport you to a nearby graveyard instead of just randomly dropping you out of the air to your inevitable doom. And should you suffer a good old standard disconnect, the time between your disconnect
If
and
any
the
of your
automated
power,
character
your
log off
locations
has
are
been
empty
lowered.
plus power.
Since these have just been tested on the PTR so far, we don't entirely know the ins and outs of exactly how this will work, but I'm sure we'll find out more once the servers are live. Blizzard's hardcore realms, unlike the unofficial ones, will have no restrictions when it comes to grouping, trading, mailbox, or auction house. Anything and everything goes. This does bring the good, such as grouping for quests, the ability to easily run dungeons, and a unique hardcore economy, and the bad, such as botting and gold farmers out in the world looking to profit from this fresh environment. Speaking of trading and grouping, Blizzard's
That's
hardcore
crazy that I
servers will
didn't
not
win that
feature any
square.
additional alternative playstyles at launch. Blizzard have expressed interest for a more solo-oriented path through the game,
That is just
or what players
crazy to
call
me.
solo self-found or SSF, but they have confirmed they will not be doing it at launch. On top of that, they've also said they won't be enforcing the solo part of it, as even on unofficial realms, this was selectively applied so players could run dungeons whilst leveling. For Blizzard, when they eventually get round to it, it will more just be having a self-sufficient character that cannot trade, use the mail, or the auction house. We don't know when this will be though. What there will be faster respawns on named mobs throughout the world to help players get through those type of quests a little bit faster. You can also group up, remember, so hopefully the old quests that were often bottlenecks will now be able to be passed pretty quickly. Monster leashes have also been adjusted so that they cannot be kited forever. This is one of the changes mainly aimed at preventing griefing. Think of kiting Teramis the Devourer to Stormwind, or the elites outside of Alderman up to Loch Modan. Blizzard said this shouldn't affect hunters kiting elite mobs when questing normally, but I guess we're gonna see how that one works out. There will be in-game notifications for when players reach certain level thresholds, as well as for when they die. But most of these will just be within your own guild. So if you want a reason to type F when you see people die, make sure you're joining a guild. All dungeons will have a 24-hour cooldown, very similar to the heroic system that has existed in either TBC or Wrath of the Lich King. This is because a big part of the hardcore experience is being out in the open world and questing, and if dungeons were free to be run all day, every day, the return of the dungeon through those type of quests a little bit faster. You can also group up, remember, so hopefully the old quests that were often bottlenecks will now be able to be passed pretty quickly. Monster leashes have also been adjusted so that they cannot be kited forever. This is one of the changes mainly aimed at preventing griefing. Think of kiting Teramis the Devourer to Stormwind, or the elites outside of Alderman up to Loch Modan. Blizzard said this shouldn't affect hunters kiting elite mobs when questing normally, but I guess we're gonna see how that one works out. There will be in-game notifications for when players reach certain level thresholds, as well as for when they die. But most of these will just be within your own guild. So if you want a reason to type F when you see people die, make sure you're joining a guild. All dungeons will have a 24-hour cooldown, very similar to the heroic system that has existed in either TBC or Wrath of the Lich King. This is because a big part of the hardcore experience is being out in the open world and questing, and if dungeons were free to be run all day, every day, the return of the dungeon cleaving to 60 would happen. And whilst dungeon cleaving is not without its risks either, it just takes players out of the open world and puts them into an instance. This restriction is removed at 60 since there is not a whole lot of leveling to be done by that point in time. This also means a level 60 character can never run a dungeon with a character below their level. On top of that, boosting changes have been made, so if there is a large gap in levels between members of the party, the lower level ones are going to receive much less experience. So all in all, unless you want to dungeon log daily, there's going to be a lot of questing involved in getting your hardcore character to 60. If you do manage to reach 60 though, there are things which have changed at endgame too. First up, all the content in Classic WoW will be available and unlocked from day one. People will be able to roll up into Naxxramas before they go to Molten Core, which is probably a terrible idea, but you can do it in theory. This leaves content progression solely in the hands of the player base to see how fast it can be done, and everyone having one life makes it that much more interesting. Expect to see some really good drama around the race here. Also worth a mention, both the debuff and buff caps have been removed for raiding content, so no need to worry about the whole assignment spreadsheet anymore. On top of that, both the Chronoboon Displacer as well as world buffs will be allowed in hardcore raiding. Again, this seems fine. Hardcore is about stacking every possible advantage. The content might be easy, but it's also very easy to get one-shot by just about anything in Classic. For PvP, we have quite a few changes as well. First up, Battlegrounds. Their reputation rewards and ranking rewards have all been disabled. There is one exception to this, which is players can still buy the PvP trinket from vendors in Stormwind or Orgrimmar. However, now it will cost you 20 gold. Remember, in Classic, the PvP trinket can only remove certain effects, and it does different things for different classes. Still, there isn't a huge volume of really great trinkets out there till much later in the game, so it might be worth the investment if it can remove, say, fear or stun effects on your class. You can still wargame versus other players in Battlegrounds, mind you, but if you die doing this, that's gonna be your one life gone. Certain quests that used to PvP flag you for some reason, such as the attack or the final part of the missing diplomat, will no longer do so you don't have to worry about enemy players lurking nearby. And to enable PvP in the open world at all, it can only be done via typing /PvP in your chat box. You can no longer accidentally toggle PvP on by right-clicking a flagged player or enemy. Another new feature is Duel to the Death, aka Mac Gora. This is very much what it sounds like. Face off against another player in Mortal Kombat and see if they secretly had Arena Grandmaster, Tidal Charm, free action potions, magic dust, or one of the many other overpowered items in Classic. There's even a fancy new flag for Mac Gora as well, so you can see if people are doing it from afar. For each battle
That's
you
fucking
win, you also
sick.
get a cosmetic buff called the String of Ears, and is probably a deterrent from people actually wanting to fight you in the first place. Also, the duel space has been increased by a large amount to prevent people accidentally forfeiting due to fear pathing or getting CC'd out of the area. However, should you actually run from a duel to the death, this is going to be punished heavily. You'll be affected by a debuff called Coward, reducing all attributes, damage, resistances, and armor for 20% for 3 in-game
That's crazy.
days. So if you run from a duel to the death, you better have a remote desktop, work from home, or be prepared to AFK in Orgrimmar's Stormwind for a long old time. Moving on though, the updated Dragonflight options have also been added to Classic. If you're unfamiliar with this UI at all, you can search pretty much anything that used to exist at the bar at the top. It's really not that hard to use. Unfortunately, Blizzard did remember to tinker with it for Classic, so we have the authentic 20-yard enemy name bars once again. Love to see that return. Finally, gameplay disruption is expected to be taken seriously on hardcore servers. Blizzard say it's critical to the health of these realms that players play nice, and you run from a duel to the death, this is going to be punished heavily. You'll be affected by a debuff called Coward, reducing all attributes, damage, resistances, and armor for 20% for 3 in-game days. So if you run from a duel to the death, you better have a remote desktop, work from home, or be prepared to AFK in Orgrimmar's Stormwind for a long old time. Moving on though, the updated Dragonflight options have also been added to Classic. If you're unfamiliar with this UI at all, you can search pretty much anything that used to exist at the bar at the top. It's really not that hard to use. Unfortunately, Blizzard did remember to tinker with it for Classic, so we have the authentic 20-yard enemy name bars once again. Love to see that return. Finally, gameplay disruption is expected to be taken seriously on hardcore servers. Blizzard say it's critical to the health of these realms that players play nice and play fair with one another, and we will take any hostile action or abusive actions that occur between players very seriously. Upon character creation, you will be prompted to agree to both the hazards of hardcore realms and that death is permanent and irrevocable, as well as the rules around the behavior between players. And whilst efforts in-game by Blizzard have been made to mitigate griefing, if the inevitable happens, expect your account to be at risk. I can almost see the "why did I get banned" posts in the future happening already. And that's about it for hardcore servers. Let me know if there's anything I missed off below. Best of luck on your hardcore journey, watch out for caves, and enjoy. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all on the next one very soon.
Alrighty, boys. I think I'm gonna go to bed. Thanks everybody that stopped by and opened a tab and watched me for a little while. It was good to see you guys, and bye.